Series 3, I think, is incredibly underrated for what it is. Especially because the end of the season is like banger after banger after banger for me.
Yes.
The start of the season is strong, but doesn't like blow me away or anything. But the end of the season...
Yeah, it takes a while to get going, but I'd argue it only starts good and only gets better. With one or two caveats, which we'll get to.
Series 3 of Doctor Who starts exactly where Series 2 left off. The Doctor is sad.
The first time rewatching it properly in a full while without skipping 42 or Pigs in New York and just going straight to the heavy hitters. I think, it's certainly the strongest season in our linear rewatching so far.
And it's also the first time we've not had Rose. The Christmas special is the first episode without Rose.
Yes, and we start with who will be a future companion in season 4. It's Catherine Tate's Donna Noble.
Which wasn't planned originally for her to ever come back.
Nope.
Like, because she's a big name, she was a big name in comedy already. She was just doing her thing. She didn't seemingly know what Doctor Who was.
No, which works for the companion.
She didn't know he wasn't called Doctor Who.
You've seen her on Buzzcocks when David was the host and she can't tell you what TARDIS stands for. It works perfectly for the character.
I thought you were Mr. Who. Who was a doctor?
I mean, the Doctor Who Christmas specials, apart from maybe one or two, always a little bit throwaway. They're never the greatest episodes of Doctor Who, and they're always just a bit of fun on Christmas. And I think that this one's core of, he's just went from having a pretty young blonde who loves him to now having a middle-aged bride who is very unimpressed by him, is the best.
It's got an incredible opening stinger because it carries directly off from Series 2.
Yeah.
So Series 2 literally ends with the Doctor distraught, Rose is gone, and then he turns around and then Donna's there. And she's like, what? What? And then we cut and then you're like, sorry, you don't get anything till Christmas. It is a good way to force the Doctor to not have time to mourn.
Yes.
Because he would be a whingy little baby for a very long time,
so you're just forcing him into something, if it's a household name, Catherine Tate from that Catherine Tate show.
Yep.
And that's almost the Christmas special of it all. It feels like a crossover. It's the Doctor with this comedy legend of the time.
Yep. Donna is pretty much the perfect way to mix up this dynamic. You've had Rose for 26 episodes now. She is intrinsically linked to Doctor Who, but very much David Tennant. You could kind of see 9 without Rose. A lot of people wouldn't be able to see Tennant without Rose.
Which is very interesting because he gets a new companion every season. I think that Donna and Ten are probably my favourite pairing.
Yeah.
More maybe than any other one. But that's next season's discussion.
I mean, that is this episode.
Oh, they're true. So we got the seeds of what works.
Yeah, it's pretty much like it's an incredible audition for her as a companion. If she wasn't so famous and busy, it feels like she would have been in, but it's almost like she was so up there they never considered her because like Billie Piper wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Like Martha Jones wasn't doing anything, but like...
The fact you can't remember her name really speaks
Freema Agyeman wasn't doing anything.
Sense8 was around the corner. It was coming, Sense8.
Oh God, what is she in now? She's in New Amsterdam, which is fitting for the Manhattan episode because that's how I found out what New Amsterdam meant. Because it's New York. I didn't know that back in the day. You learn stuff as a child watching Doctor Who. Well, you used to. You don't anymore.
I was going to bring this up. We will get to that. The learning in this season's good.
It's crazy. Back to basics, because I guess Russell doesn't have to worry so much about making them fall in love. But it has other downfalls. But the way they fling off each other, her and Tennant are so good. Just their banter is absolutely incredible because she's having none of it.
She's thoroughly unimpressed by the whole situation, which he's not used to at this point. He's used to everyone being like, wow.
He immediately gets slapped, doesn't he?
Well, immediately it's like, well, we've got to get you back. And we have fun flashbacks where she's talking about how Lance wore her down, but then it's actually her doing it to him.
Yeah.
She's got that rivalry with the blonde one or something.
She's so fleshed out immediately.
And just the comedy of it, like, they get in the taxi, no one's got money, cuts them out the taxi. Oh, thanks, Christmas spirit. You almost kind of forget, because there's what's working, the fact that it's more or less the recycled evil Santa idea again from season 2.
Yeah, because it's Christmas, they do make their appearance, although they're different, because they're not Autons from the first season, but they're more like the pilot fish from the second one, but they're just working for a different master now. What I love immediately is the way it snaps the Doctor out of his mourning Rose, basically, because not only is there a mystery of, like, why is this woman in my TARDIS suddenly? Like, she can't be here, literally makes no sense. As soon as she puts on the crying and like she's vulnerable, he has someone to help, someone to fix, and that's what he seemingly needs because he's the Doctor.
Yes. It's just a good mystery. How have you got in here?
And he clicks into the I have to get her home. So he's now doing everything. Like the stakes are low. Like it's literally she just has to get to a wedding. But the Doctor's treating it like it's the end of the world. He's sprinting, he's shouting, they're both yelling, committing crimes by making money spit out.
Her wedding party just doesn't exactly know how to comprehend it. Like that she disappeared in front of everyone. And And it's not like she disappeared. She was going, oh my God, what's happening?
And she screams.
And she screams. And then you get the tragically funny, they went ahead and did everything without her anyway, like, which is so terrible.
But it is what you do, because then she calls them. So it's like, then she knows they're okay. But then they're like, what are you doing? Like, you're such a drama queen. Only you would do this, Donna.
Yeah.
And then because they're annoyed at her, they've already paid for the reception. They know she's safe.
It works out quite well. We see Donna's father. And that actor was recording for season 4, but then sadly passed away, which is why they brought Wilf in. I think there's some canon reason why Wilf wasn't at the wedding, maybe. Someone thought to do it, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a charming, fun Christmas special that I really like about this era, and when Russell was on his game, is that we still have that character core coming through. And the character core here is, it's the Doctor being alone, and this Doctor, when he becomes vengeful, which we saw last Christmas special, no second chances, I'm going to destroy Harriet Jones's whole political career with one word. So he's a Doctor who, while it can be all fun and jovial, if he feels you've crossed the line, will take it upon himself to be judge and executioner and won't hesitate. And
this episode does show off that darkness near the end. There's a bit of fun with the whole getting there. Like, it's very campy. I would say that about this season. It feels campier than the previous two, I think, in a couple of ways.
They've left the grounded nature slightly, because you forget the first season was very grounded, maybe down to budget as well, but also what they wanted to do with it. Where
they're a little bit more up this season. They try some different things. You get like the Segway ride as they go through the tunnels. It reminded me a lot of the Waters of Mars, where he's on top of the boosted robot. Just like silly little things of them riding down a Segway. But Donna is really, really, really good, because you get a lot of her emotionality and like her vulnerability. Like, you see her put it on a few times. She starts crying to make everyone at the reception love her again, because they're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, sweetie, because she is a drama queen.
Yeah.
But then you've got stuff like, once she finds out that Lance betrays her, shock horror spoilers, Lance is a giant prick. He's also a drama queen, because he comes out with the axe pretending to kill the Rachnos. When she finds out that Lance betrays her, she actually breaks down, and it's like, she finally thought someone loved her. She is always looking for attention because she doesn't think anybody likes her.
Yeah.
Because she's not conventionally attractive, like all that kind of stuff. And her mum's a bit of a bitch and hasn't exactly been lovely to her. But then you see her just like break down and just like in shock that, the one guy she thought finally fell for her doesn't love her. And then the Doctor's kind of like, oh, that is sad.
Yeah.
She's like, oh no. But then he turns into vengeful Time Lord Victorious, and he tries to exterminate a race. He tries to do a little genocide.
And we get a Gallifrey name drop for the first time, which for me, as a young person who had no concept of the earlier seasons of Classic Who, hearing Gallifrey be the name was a big learning moment.
And then this season goes into Gallifrey a lot.
Yes, it does. For new viewers, it's quite good.
And it pays off. Like, it actually has a reason to exist.
Yes.
It's not like he's just venting random stuff to a companion. So imagine, I don't know, the newest season where he takes Belinda around and he just starts spouting about what Gallifrey is, even though it doesn't really matter.
Well, they destroyed Gallifrey again, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because they don't know what to do if Gallifrey works. It was a great one-time trick, and you can't do it again.
But you can try 4 times, apparently. After the Gallifrey mention, he starts to drown the Rachnos, and you can see that he would probably have stayed there till the end, but then Donna shouts out, Doctor, you can stop now. That moment works. That works so well. And then when they do escape, he's kind of like tries to brush off the fact that he almost did a little genocide. And then she's like, maybe you shouldn't be alone.
Yeah, because doesn't he offer her to come?
She says, no, that was insane.
Yeah, I don't want that. Which at the time, they weren't intending on her coming back. What we understand, which will go a bit more in season 4, is that they were just thinking of doing a non-young companion who fancies him. And then in doing the planning went, oh, it's just Donna. Let's see if Catherine's available again.
Yeah, so that does introduce us to Martha, who is a high point.
Smith and Jones, that first
Smith and Jones.
Which works really well. Thankfully, at the time, I didn't realise, but I wonder if any binging viewers would go, hang on a minute, didn't we just see her 2 episodes ago when she died in the Cyberman film?
But they do cover, because when she's waiting on the moon, they talk about Canary Wharf, and she's like,
I had a cousin, Adiola.
But basically what happened was, when they were filming Doomsday, Phil Collinson and Russell T Davies and basically everyone on set was like, holy shit, Freema Agyeman's sick.
They've done that a few times, haven't they?
Every time. In the series 2 finale, she does actually make more of an effect than you would have thought, because like you do get her being innocent and then she's like kind of coy with her colleague, and then they go downstairs, she comes back, she's like changed personality to be evil now, and then she gets a good squeal. So like they had all the audition processes for a companion.
The Doctor is meeting the companion, first time it's happened since Rose. It's interesting because now we as the audience know a lot about the Doctor, so now we have to watch a character learn, but we already know, so you don't want it to be boring. But they do a really good job of having us get to know her and like her. It's mainly from her perspective, and then obviously it becomes split, but we're seeing it through hers. She starts off her day. We're getting the setup, mum, dad are split up. It's a little bit different. She's a bit more maybe, she's trained to be a doctor, maybe a bit more upper middle class than Rose was. Her dad has a trophy girlfriend, and he seems to be able to spend a lot of money on her. So it implies that Mary would come from a bit more of a better background.
They do a good job of differentiating her from Rose, because she does have all that family stuff going on, whereas Rose had a very bare bones.
Just had her mum and Mickey.
You've got her actually being a medical student. She's more of an intellectual equal to the Doctor. She's studied. She doesn't want to run away, whereas Rose's whole thing was, I'm sick of my life. Martha's like, I'm building to something. I'm literally, like, I've spent, medical student. That's got to be ages.
And she's curious, because at the start, the setup is that the hospital in which she's a student doctor in has been teleported onto the moon somehow. The Judoon space police, basically space rhinos, there's a fugitive in this hospital. And they are simply going around in a very nice way, because you think scary monsters, but it's one of the few times where they're like, human. And they're just being nice. Yeah. They're just, maybe their bedside manner could be better of them going, please everyone be calm, we're just looking for one person. But instead, they're just scanning people, leaving them alone until they find the right person, which I quite like.
Yeah, they're not evil. They're bureaucratic, I guess.
Yeah.
It sets them aside, and it's one of the, apart from the incredible creature effects.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they look so fucking good. They've got full mouth articulation, ears.
And the tension is, if they don't find them, they'll just eviscerate the whole hospital to be safe or something.
Pretty much. That's the final plan. They don't want to do it. They'll try not to, but if they have to...
The Judoon, you see, they're thick. Because they wipe the system, because the Doctor goes, I'll just look up the system and see what's going on, but that would end the plot.
Yes, I'll find out any weird patient history.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in the intro, Martha does run into the Doctor randomly in the street.
Yeah, he's tie off.
Yeah, he's like, see? The audience is like, what the hell? But then...
What's he doing there?
He's then suddenly in the hospital, and she has to check for his 2 hearts, but he has 2 hearts, and she's like, I'm not going to tell anyone that.
I'd never liked that now canonically this Doctor has only been the Doctor for 3 years, because they aged him with every year. So he went from being 903 to 905 or 6. I much prefer the Stephen Moffat of Matt Smith's Doctor's probably the longest living Doctor. He went from being 900 to 2000 by the time Matt Smith was done. But I like the idea that the Doctor would spend a few decades in and out rather than just live. Also, it gives you creative room down the line to have, he was that Doctor for 100 years. There's lots of stories we could do. Obviously, it doesn't really matter.
I think it needed to be relatively soon after for this arc that they were going for.
Yeah.
I don't super love the arc, but they wanted the distraught Doctor finally coming around.
Yes.
And he does that in this because Martha is smart. He's not looking for a companion, but she's saying all the right things. She's doing all the right things.
He hears her say when she goes, don't open the windows. She goes, no, come on, they're not exactly like, vacuum sealed. The air would have been sucked out by now. There would have to be windows open. And he goes, oh, good point, brilliant, in fact. And then has a very brutal, it's the other girl, who could have came along if she wasn't crying or spewing, went, leave her. Like, we all get pulled in the charm by this Doctor. And I think it's intentional that this Doctor is so charming that you kind of forget that there's that kind of cut and dry nature to this Doctor.
It is good showing the comparison between Martha and a normal person, because one problem we run into a lot of the time with newer Doctors is they're constantly telling everyone they're brilliant. Jodie did a lot to the fam. One thing I never got about the fam was why they were all on said adventure, apart from the fact that they were the fam.
Yeah.
Like, apart from Yaz, who actually was proactively doing stuff, Grandad and Ryan were kind of just along for the ride.
Yeah.
Whereas with Martha, you can definitely see why she does what she does. Like, the hospital is in need of help. So she's like, okay, this person is obviously trying to do something. We get wonderful lines like, who are you? I'm the Doctor. I will be too if I ever finish my exams. So she's not like all the way there, but she's like getting there.
Way later on, when we have the Lazarus episode where she introduces the Doctor to her sister and goes, oh, this is the Doctor, and the sister Tate says, oh yeah, because you work in a hospital.
Yeah.
I thought, oh yeah, it's one of the few times that you might not blink at someone going, this is the Doctor. You're like, oh yeah, because you're a doctor, he's a doctor.
Yeah.
Come on,
And Martha does a great job of being a doctor. Like, whenever there's a medical emergency, she does move towards doing it. She's always there to help people. She has a
her
lot of
instinct.
empathy, but it doesn't feel as forefronted as what they did to Belinda. Belinda Chandra in the new series, I feel like whenever she was doing nursey stuff, it was all she did. Like the Well episode, the main chick in the episode was hurt slightly. She had like a boo-boo on her arm. So Belinda basically just clocked in on that and then spent the rest of the episode trying to patch her up. And it was like a graze.
Yeah.
Whereas like Martha does something, then she moves on to something else.
Yeah.
She goes into the x-ray room because she has to figure out how the x-ray room works. Great comparison. Rose would have just smashed a button. Rose would have started flicking all the switches. Martha pulls out the manual. Martha starts reading the manual because she's a doctor. She's literally a textbook reader is her entire everything.
I think they do a good job because they have to go with like, how do these two work together? And what I really like about this episode is they feel like there's a bit more of a stronger Holmes and Watson style.
Yes.
As those stories go on, Watson starts picking up on the Holmes tricks. And like, given that she's trained to be a doctor, she's a clever person in general. So she would be able, she's into science. So she would be able to follow along a bit more here.
Yeah.
Which the first episode gives a very promising look to.
Yes.
And we'll see where we go. I think her initial attraction, because they already have him kissing her for like, what was the reason?
Genetic transfer.
But it's a reason to give a kiss. There's the fun bit, because, the Doctor seems to have all these side gifts whenever required.
Yeah.
And in this one, he can transfer the radiation into his shoe, throwing the shoe away. Then has some joke about, we used to play with radiation cubes in the nursery. The plot is, as we'd imagine, quite simple. It's just figuring out who's done it.
It's Base Under Siege, basically.
I always recognise that actress from other things, but I always remember.
The old woman?
Yeah.
Well, what you might recognise her from, you won't because you haven't seen it. But she was in The Curse of Fenric. She's a Doctor Who actress from the 80s. So that's a little fun that she got to come back and she suddenly like gets to play the evil one.
And she has a very simple setup of, I brought my straw, two guys in bike helmets.
Yeah, so the slabs are forgettable, but you don't really want to bring focus away from the Jadoon. The Jadoon are your thing.
And then that's the, the Modo, Frodo,
Yes,
Shadow.
which we should say, the reason they're called the Jadoon, and it's the Jadoon platoon upon the moon.
Jadoon platoon upon the moon.
David Tennant struggles to say the ooh, the long ooh, with his fake accent. So basically they were taunting him. So they're just like, we're going to make you say all these things.
You have to come up with the reason why this girl is getting back on the ship at the end of the adventure. Because this is always the thing that you can and can't reference with this stuff, is that it's a life of danger, of horror. Are you really going to get on the ship with this guy? And with Rose, it made sense because she had such a boring life.
She wanted the adventure.
It's also just the conceit of the show. And also what Russell has been doing, what we continue here, is that they go back home. Like they, like I'll enjoy an adventure too, but I want to go back home now, please. Which I think brings to the reality that the classic series didn't feel the need to, I guess.
Because they were trapped there. They had no choice, yeah.
He basically has the chick drink his blood, so then her blood will read alien, therefore it must be her.
Which is good because it's a smart way of defeating a villain.
Yes.
I love smart way. Don't just do a dumb button or whatever, which we do sometimes throughout this season. But yeah, it's a plan he sets up. It's a multi-stage thing. He smooches Martha to give him the extra time.
Early on when they're out on the platform, and he's like, we could die, because we could not. And they go out and have that quiet moment of, bloody hell, that's the Earth, we're on the moon. And
she inevitably goes with the Doctor for two reasons, is the way I see it.
Yes.
So she goes with the Doctor for that new horizons, like discovering new things.
Yeah.
And also because she needs a break. Because she's been studying to be a doctor for years. Her family are a bunch of jerks.
She likes the look of him.
Also, yes, he's cute as hell.
And also he does say it's a one-off trip thing, so it's a one-time only, then we'll come on back. And his motivation, which we learn, which I really like in this first half of the season, he's kind of having a bit of a honeymoon time. Like, Rose has left, he's been feeling a bit down, but now he gets to perform as the Doctor for someone and feel like himself again.
It's very performative a lot of the time.
And he says at the end of when we get to it, I enjoyed pretending.
And it does come back to bite him, which is, again, a great multi-episode arc. Like a mini one for him is when he shows off, people get hurt. And he's like, oh, I should stop doing that.
Yeah.
He doesn't stop doing that.
It's a way to keep him from being perfect, which you could sometimes fall into with the Doctor.
Because his dashing persona does get Martha into trouble, because that's why she goes with him. Because, yeah, she falls in love immediately because he is the dashing man.
Yes.
And it's like, he didn't mean for this to happen. But that's it. Such a fantastic setup. And Martha jumps in the TARDIS at the very end and goes on her one trip.
And you're interested to see how this progresses. And then we end up in
the Shakespeare Code. So the main thing of this episode that we should touch as two white men on the internet is, how do you deal with racism in Doctor Who when you go back in time?
I think they did it perfectly.
we're fans of it. I can see both sides. Like, I don't want it to get bogged down because I watch a lot of sci-fi, and in every sci-fi, when you send a black character back in time, it gets hard, and that's what the story ends up being about. You don't always want that story to be about that.
Well, I thought they did which Russell is really good at, is when you reflect the modern times in the story, which is what he does. So when we have the initial, we land, we're in London, we're walking around, it looks pretty good, for what it is. I quite like it.
The reason it looks good is because that's just England. It turns out that behind the scenes, they just went to London. Yeah. This was shot in the Globe Theatre.
Yeah, they did, which is a reconstruction, obviously. It's not the original.
But the original held 3,000, this one holds 1,000. Turns out some back streets just look like that. Or they had to add hay on the floor. That's literally all they did. And I'm like, what the fuck, London?
Yeah, because you still have some of those old, maybe not Elizabethan, but recreation of that style from the Victorian era.
That courtyard that they spend a lot of time in, I dead set thought that was a set on a soundstage. But it just exists.
One of the first things she does after the initial of, oh my God, we're in a different time, is, hang on a minute, am I going to get carted off? And the doctor has a wonderful, why would they do that?
Yeah.
And he goes, black skin, I don't think it would really work here. But he goes, oh no, just stick next to me and act like you own the place. And I'm sure in real life, if a black person did go back to the late 1500s, there'd be a lot more finger pointing and awe. But there's also a sense that people don't care, and there's an assumption you're there for a reason, which is what the doctor is operating off.
It's a better way to do the story, to actually do the story, because otherwise, again, it becomes about...
I mean, they're wearing the wrong clothes anyway.
But I can see both sides, because it really is that can be a problem for some people, because, you're saying history wasn't as bad as it was, but I think there are better vehicles for that conversation. You can have episodes that deal with race, Chibnall tried it with Demons of the Punjab and Rosa. He did Rosa terribly.
They do it with the Family of Blood later, where there's just a racist remark.
Which I think actually works super well.
Yeah, I think you just acknowledge it and you go, this is what she's having to deal with. And they don't maybe you could have Martha going, I don't really want to go to the past, Doctor, because it just doesn't work out well.
Yeah.
He's like, that's a good point. But I feel like if Russell was doing it now, it would be the whole thing of this is the first time I've ever had a companion who's black. Oh, I never considered it.
Well, I mean, he does that with... although technically he didn't write that episode.
But he's overseeing it.
Yeah. I do prefer the way they handle it here, where you can touch on it a little bit, but it doesn't become the main thing. Shakespeare himself brings up that she's...
Who is your delicious blackamoor lady?
What did you say?
A modern thing of, can't we say that nowadays? And
yes.
The doctor goes, it's political correctness gone mad. With the idea that, they're bringing the modern idea into that time, which is something that this era was very good at doing.
Yes.
I mean, traffic in the next one. We're talking about, modern problems and putting them in. In this one, they have that element, at least. I guess plot-wise, structurally somewhat reminds me of the Dickens episode. Particularly when we're in cellars at one point, running around. But we go to the Globe Theatre, which is the actual Globe Theatre.
Interestingly, all those scenes were shot at night because they weren't able to close down the Globe. They basically had to set up after the last performance that night and then film overnight.
I went there on a school trip in 2009.
Is it cool?
It's pretty cool being in the recreation of what was. It was cool to see it, and obviously it looks cool there, and they've got it all done. And there's the fun bit where Martha yells "author," which is she's invented that now habit. It's early on in Shakespeare's. It seems
he's written a few things.
He's written it, yeah, he's written a few things.
I'll let you go on off on that if you're quick about it.
It's funny because it is, you're talking about historical accuracy, but yet they've got a bloke from Stratford claiming to write the greatest works of all time, which doesn't make any sense at all.
They admit in the behind the scenes that very little is known about him, so they basically decided to play him as a rock star from back in the day, and the actor is incredibly charismatic.
He is, because Shakespeare was from the Midlands, he would have an accent sounding like mine, but yet whenever we see him kind of shown, Kenneth Branagh's playing him, Paul Mescal's playing him, the Shakespearean love guy, he's always kind of a well-to-do posh boy, almost, which he almost certainly wasn't. We don't even know if he went to school.
And also, I definitely prefer not that version of him, because, all the best artists are tortured. You have this guy, you get darker moments with him where he's talking about Hamnet, his son dying, and this is where I learned most of my Shakespeare lore from.
There's not much to learn, so you're fine.
Serious. Some of it is real, the Hamnet thing, and even Martha's Hamnet, because she knows Hamlet.
Hamnet and Hamlet were interchangeable names at the time.
So it's just interesting where you are learning what Martha's learning.
A fun thing about Shakespeare is go to his Wikipedia page, go to early life, and you will see how well it goes from we think, we surmise, to then by the end it's just telling you about what the school regime was at the time and what he must have done.
Yep.
And it's all surmise. But the Shakespeare biography is full of assumptions and surmising because we simply don't know enough. And I am someone who is a Shakespeare doubter. I don't subscribe to any particular person. I'm much more into like the group theory. I think Francis Bacon, Edward de Vere. Hamlet is very similar to Edward de Vere's life. That's all I will say.
Well, the writer of this episode thinks the exact opposite, and he thinks Shakespeare is the coolest fucking person alive because writers are obsessed with writers.
Oh, yeah.
And that's my least favorite thing about writers.
And Shakespeare was such a genius. He just fought up French court life and was correct about it.
That's my least favorite thing about this episode is the Shakespeare glazing. Like, I'm okay with the Doctor thinking some people are brilliant, but probably every third line in this episode is, wow, Shakespeare, what a genius. It's funny in the intro.
Because he would have, if you believe he wrote those works, he would have had to have been the genius of the time.
Yeah.
He's a genius, the genius, the most human there's ever been.
It works in the intro where he's basically like, oh, he's the most brilliant genius that's ever geniused. He's the most human. We're going to listen to his beautiful words. And he's like, shut your big fat mouths. And everyone's like, ah, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, well, that's what I like about him is that he's a bit more rough because he would have been. Shakespeare is the most famous unknown person there ever has been. He's the most famous British person, and there is no fun facts about him.
And I'm shocked that we haven't visited him earlier because of that, because his life is a big fat Doctor Who shaped plot hole.
It's like Leonardo da Vinci has a few gap years.
Assassin's Creed loves that shit.
Yeah, and David Goyer even wrote a Da Vinci series about his missing years.
Yep. Oh, Agatha Christie, especially, she's mentioned in this season at some point. I'd love to meet Agatha Christie.
And we do.
She disappeared for a week. Let's find out. Let's put Doctor Who in there.
It would make sense almost because there is a 7-year gap in which we don't know what Shakespeare was up to that people go, oh, he must have travelled the world, learnt everything in those 7 years. But there's no records of it. It would have been interesting if maybe the Doctor took him a few places.
Yeah.
Would have been fun. It's a very Shakespearean plot.
Yes.
We've got 3 witches who are trying to use math poetry.
I love that angle.
Yeah, it's such fun nonsense.
Yep. We have literally split the atom using math, and then they're like, why can't words be that? I'm like, yes,
Completely
I like
makes
that.
sense.
It's a little writer glazy, but you know.
Sure. But if you're doing if you're going to glaze a writer, it might as well be Shakespeare.
Yeah. Basically, the witches are called carrier knights.
Yeah.
And they want to open the breach so that more carrier knights can come through. They need Shakespeare to say a bunch of words because they've kind of picked off his brain.
The great missing play, which was a thing.
Love's Labour's Won. So the Martha stuff of this episode with the Doctor.
Which is the interesting stuff here.
I guess it hadn't annoyed me yet because it's only the first time it really comes up.
They're in a bed at one point. He's lying in a bed.
Yes.
Has a fun joke about Harry Potter because I think the 6th book was out by that point.
The Doctor is down in the dumps because he can't figure it out because it's witchcraft and that's not really his forte. They stay the night because they need to solve the mystery, so he lies down in the bed completely oblivious to he's invited a young girl in love with him into a bedroom, but then she joins him on the bed and he says, I just can't figure this out. Rose would know what to do. She'd say exactly the perfect thing at the right moment. And then there's a pregnant pause where like Martha doesn't say anything because she's like, what the fuck, dude? And then he goes, can't be helped. And he rolls over. He doesn't mean it maliciously. I think it's well written and it works for the characters. But by the end of the season, this exact thing will have happened every single episode.
Yeah. And
it will annoy me by then. So retroactively, it does kind of annoy me here. But I think it's an interesting angle here of basically he's promised Martha one date in the TARDIS. And he really says, I'll take you home tomorrow. Can't be helped. We'll figure it out. I'll get you home.
Yeah.
Like just brushing her aside, like almost a one-night stand of adventure. And that sucks for her.
Yeah, particularly when, if you're shown this, which is something that we bring up a few times throughout the New Who, is that you're shown this way of living, that you can go anywhere and money doesn't matter anymore, and there's this magical guy that's incredibly appealing at first. Like, it completely makes sense that you would want to get swept away. I mean, it's that fantasy, I guess. It's something that carries through this first kind of quarter of Martha's story here with the Doctors, that she can feel that he isn't being fully honest with her.
Yes,
and
which
she
I
wants
love.
him to be honest. Yeah.
Literally, he brushes her aside every time she asks about Rose, the past, literally anything, and he just brushes off. And we've only just learned about Gallifrey for this guy.
Yes.
So we're like, yes, Doctor, please tell us about your homeworld.
There's the joke with Shakespeare of like, the Doctor will say something else, I might nick that. He goes, you can't, someone else's, or wait, that's mine, or something.
Yes.
I might use that.
I like that.
I might use that.
That's probably 90% of the episode.
Yeah.
It's a very simple episode as far as that goes. It's a mystery plot of what the witches are doing because we don't find that out for ages. But most of the time you're just hanging out with Shakespeare and Martha because like they can't do anything to kill the witches. They're kind of just running around.
Yeah, it's very fun with Will. They have to get round that they can't have many actors. I think at the start they have more of a full cast, like men in dresses, but then they shoot around the play because one, the play doesn't exist, so we can't actually recreate it. So you're just getting the in-betweens with this actor and this actor.
From the behind the scenes, they had 50 extras that they had to turn into about 1,000 for the crowd.
Yep.
And then the reason there's almost no one on stage for most of it is because they were shooting it between the Globe's night show and the morning show. So if you have to wrangle that many people, you're fucked.
And then I did like the whole, I don't know what he's saying, and at one point he's just saying code or whatever, which was
he's
very
saying
fun.
magic.
Yeah, which I liked very much. And yeah, like that it links to Shakespeare. I mean, the plays have 29,000 unique words, basically. Like it's a lot of, he's a word master. He coins new words all the time.
Like elbow. He made up elbow.
In a nutshell.
Oh, no, this is me in a nutshell. The Carrionites look terrible when the thing opens. I don't think it would have even looked good on a little TV in 2008.
It certainly doesn't look good on a big, wide HD.
It's not ideal, but like you could have just had them be more witches in prosthetics. You had 3, chuck them on a green screen, spin them around.
Yeah.
Did they need to be big carapaced, claw-like things? I know they're aliens, but witches can be aliens. It's fine. We should have done that. Instead, we used a bunch of CGI budget to do this wacky thing, and it doesn't look good, and it doesn't make sense why they look like that sometimes, but witches sometimes, but then also humans sometimes. Like, you could have just settled on the witches. It would have been fine. I will bring it up. Good old JK.
Yeah. We use Expelliarmus as the word.
Yes,
this is the height of Harry Potter.
And it doesn't help that this was written by a big old transphobe. He is no longer involved with Doctor Who. The BBC was like, you're a bad dude, or at least you look bad for us. We'll kick him out. Because again, who knows what the BBC actually thinks.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much all with that.
Yeah, and then they put Shakespeare in the thing that he never would have wore. Yeah, really just good, solid, fun adventure, which I think pairs really nicely with the next one, which is Gridlock, where we go into the future.
Yeah, it's the same as Series 1, where you show the premise of the show.
Yeah.
Not that this is a reboot, but you might have picked up new people. It's the BBC Weekly. I love Gridlock.
It's just solid, good Doctor Who episode.
Yeah.
It's not too grand. Obviously, it's got some stuff with the You're Not Alone and all that, but just really just here's what Doctor Who is in 45 minutes.
And it's some of the greatest premises of like, I hate sitting in traffic. Like English traffic can get really badly. What if the future? And just that reveal of, it's been 12 years since I joined the motorway. It's been 23 years since I joined the motorway. It also gets a separate layer being set in the year 50 million or whatever. It's the same New Earth from Rose's Series 2 episode. So the Doctor's taking Martha back to where he took his old girlfriend.
Never heard Rebound?
Yeah, which happened. And I'll put up the cartoon of Rose Loved Drugs. That's one of my favorite cartoons ever. But Martha gets really annoyed at the Doctor and threatens to not go anywhere until he tells her a little bit more because, again, he's doing the brushing off. So then we get a really powerful scene where he sits down and actually talks about Gallifrey. But then the drug opens up.
And it's like just, what would future drugs be like? And I also have to imagine this was at the time of like cigarette patches and stuff. Maybe that was like forget.
Yes, which is pretty heartbreaking showing that. This nice woman was just like the Doctor trying to help her. And then she's like, help with what? And then he can't save them. So then he gets really mad. Is
it partly because of what the Doctor did in season 2? This is why we're like this now, or it's just a different era? Because the classic Doctor idea of I fixed the problem and I'll let you lot do it now because I'm a Time Lord and we shouldn't interfere that much.
I don't think this is a repercussion because all he does in New Earth is he releases a new species and save everyone in the hospital.
It's just a different era.
This is just him taking his new girlfriend to the same place he took his old girlfriend. It shows off the Doctor was just showing off, like being like, oh, this is my new place. And then Martha gets taken and he cannot save her. Like she's just gone because either he gets shot and then she still gets taken or he waits a second and then he can go help.
Yeah.
There's a couple of moments this season where it's the Doctor trying to save Martha because he did something foolish. And I think it's carried really well. Like David Tennant is fantastic. We know that. But basically all of humanity is stuck on the motorway. And they have been for 23 years since everybody on the planet died.
They're all operating off the promise that something is coming. Like there is something. There's a new city, a new place to go to, and we're definitely not just going around in circles.
I think it's a very Doctor Who thing, not to be too, like, dour, because everyone's kind of hopeful. Like, they're not in there because humanity sucks. They're all down there because they want something better.
Yeah, you get to see nice little pockets of humanity. Like, you get a cat man with his human wife and their litter.
Ardalo Hanlon, one of my favourite characters ever. That makeup still looks incredible.
Yeah, and then we get the old gay couple, which, yeah, you don't blink at it. Like, they're just there and they're gay.
The something sisters. But they even pointed out, because Brannigan's like, sisters, are you there? And like, you know very well we're married. And he's like, oh.
Yeah, the whole, like, Catholic, because he's, because he's from Father Ted, that actor.
Yes.
So.
You see nudists, you see everything.
Yeah, and the guy who's dressed like David in a tweed outfit and stuff. Yeah, they have a lot of fun with it. And it's simply, he's got to go try and find Martha. And what's happening there is that since there's 3 of them, they get to go into the fast lane. But going into the fast lane is actually because there's these crabs.
These crabs, how dare you? They're called the Macra. Which is just a nice little Easter egg for classic fans, because basically the Macra Terror is a famous missing story from the BBC archives. So completely gone. It's now been recreated so you can watch it.
So we've got the audio of them, haven't we?
So basically these crabs, at one point in the past, they took over a colony and they made them farm gas so that they could eat the gas. So basically crab like gas, crab get big. But over the decades and millennia or whatever, they've devolved. So it really is just like a threat for the episode that's also this thing. It's not bringing back Omega as a giant CGI monster. It fits and it works. And it's like, okay, Russell, your new toy from the toy box works great. I think it's also their 40th anniversary this year. So it's like, it works. And he didn't ruin them.
And it's very, like, not only are we having a fun time with David jumping around saying that he's just an inspector, there's that great bit when he tells the sisters who are, like, train spotting, they're doing car watches, and they never have noted a police car ever. Like, in their 20-odd years, they've never once seen one. Yep. Just like, I don't want to think about it. And the idea that, as you said, that maybe it's pointing on the British people, like, we'll happily form a queue and not question.
You'll queue, not question.
And that humans will happily not question as long as there's a routine. We're all doing this together. We're all going forward.
Did the hymn break your heart? Honestly, I felt teary during the hymn. I've seen this episode so many times, and the hymn comes on. I'm like, damn, that's really nice. Because, like, it is this, like, devastating time, but the Doctor wants to save people. Yeah. But these people seem fine. Like, they've got hope still, whereas the Doctor is usually the last hope.
Yes.
And yes, he does save the day and everything like that. But there are millions of people on that motorway that don't know about the Doctor, and they're still doing it.
I did like when the nurse sister, cat sister from season 2, she has a gun. and then he sees her and he's excited. He goes, hold on a minute. You're horrible. Like he's excited and then realizes that he actually hates her.
Which is actually something this season does quite well, of bringing back, like, you get a recurring cast, but it's over seasons. They've all had character development off screen, but like they slot in so well, and we're like, oh, we know these people. It's familiarity and it works so well. Exactly. And it doesn't feel like member berries or anything, because they're not classic people.
It keeps the Bad Wolf 4 seasons very much in its own little fiction world.
Yes, it makes the world feel real as well.
Yeah, so that's the overarching plot, which I really miss when you look at the new Doctor Who stuff. I mean, they were doing it here.
Simple premise
so
done
this
well.
is like, so we have the fun sci-fi issue of the week, but then the stuff that you carry forward with you is Martha and the Doctor's relationship, because when it starts with her wanting to go to Gallifrey, can we go there? He's like, nah, where's the fun for me? He still wants to be the fun adventurer. And at the end, when we see the face of Bo and he goes, you are not alone, she goes, do you think he means me? And he goes, probs not. He goes, I don't think so.
The Doctor knows he probably means Time Lords, but the Doctor knows, like, the Doctor killed
possibly.
them. Nice thought, buddy.
Yeah,
but also
can't possibly be the case.
And also, I'm a time traveler. Who knows where the fuck they are?
Yeah, because they're in their time locked away and all that. So then you have that where he finally tells her about Gallifrey, which, since we're first hearing it, we can assume he never told Rose about it.
That place sounds goddamn beautiful. So beautiful, I recreated it for a VFX assignment back in film school.
That's kind of where it ends there with that. So we've had now Martha. The connection's been built a bit more. It's maybe now seeming like it's going to be more than just 1 or 2 trips. Now we get the Daleks in Manhattan. It's funny, though, that he goes from... It's explained why they've just done New York and now they're doing classic New York.
All I know is that Russell wanted a episode with the Daleks set back in old Manhattan.
It's super funny because obviously that is not the base of the...
Correct.
It's just a car park wall in Wales or something.
Yeah, it's literally a car park. But the fun part is that Phil Collinson, the producer, and the VFX guy and a couple of B-teamers all got to go to Manhattan.
To just what? Just do photos and scans?
Yeah, they got a bunch of clean plates. The writer, Helen Rayner, also went. So she got to do like a behind the scenes and Confidential.
Right.
She's like, she does this whole like story on BBC Confidential and like runs through it all. But then David Tennant literally got to go to a car park in Wales and he's like, fuck you guys. He's not like obviously mad, but there's definitely an air in the behind the scenes of him being like, you sons of bitches.
It's funny because obviously as a kid, it wouldn't have occurred to me that they weren't in America. But obviously they are just filming in a park in England and filming on sets. But what I like is that they've picked an era, which is like what we saw with Shakespeare too, where you're almost seeing the fantastical version of it, or like the version we remember rather than the version it actually was. So since obviously a lot of these people acting aren't American, they're just working English actors, they all have that, King Kong, like, oh, Laszlo.
Tallulah's twang.
3 L's and an H.
Exactly. So you feel like you're going back, not to the historically accurate early Depression, you're seeing the version that we think it was like.
Yeah.
And you have that a lot in Doctor Who.
Because it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
And because it is quite campy.
Because you're seeing an iconic visual of New York, it then makes it feel more real, where you've got people wearing the jackets or the big meat pie flat caps, or the girls in the burlesque kind of outfits. It helps give it more of a setting, which I really appreciate. And what I really like is that when we're going into Central Park, the Doctor is teaching us about the history and what's going on. And I thought, I'm learning in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
This is what it used to be.
Feels good.
One
interesting thing about Hooverville, the same with Gridlock, how everyone was kind of hoping for something better. Hooverville isn't depressing. Like, sure, there's a bunch of people that are sad and everything, but Solomon's there and he's like, we're doing what we can. Like, we're still human beings. We're keeping it together. Whereas, like, you could have showed that as incredibly depressing. You could have shown it as, like, the downtrodden of society. Pity them. But it's like, no, they're humans. They're trying to get back up on their feet. They're doing what they can.
The setup is, of course, that
the Daleks are in Manhattan.
The Daleks are in Manhattan, but it's the Daleks from Canary Wharf.
It's Dalek Sec, the Cult of Skaro.
So it's a continuation of those Daleks, which I forgot.
Because at the very end of Series 2, you get
Emergency temporal shift!
which is almost a blink and you miss it moment.
Yeah, I think I've blinked and missed it, yeah.
Again, it's that bringing back people from previous seasons and you're like, oh, I know that guy. How do you feel this episode was written? What do you think of this episode overall?
Oh, look, it's not my favourite two-parter in the world, I'll be honest. It's obviously fun now in 2025 to see Andrew Garfield here. Like, I mean, this is Andrew Garfield, like, just before he got going.
This is before he moved to America.
Before Never Let Me Go, Social Network, and then obviously Spider-Man.
Well, interesting thing about the writer of this episode, she wrote for Torchwood first.
Ah, I knew something was up.
Yeah. She wrote The Ghost Machine, which was episode 3, the one where you touch the device and you see the ghosts of the past. That was an interestingly written episode.
Well, look, it's better than I remembered, particularly when we have a side-by-side discussion. The Dalek and their like human front are like talking about wars and the hard parts of life.
One of the best things referenced is, Dalek Sec talks about how his people are incredible. The Daleks are the best race in the world, but for some reason they're all dead and there's like 27 Earths.
Yeah.
Like there's Earths everywhere. And he's like, why?
Yeah, because we're the logical, like, we think we're the superior race.
Yeah, and it's like questioning his own superiority.
Yes.
And then you get a lot of stuff on that. But the one thing I would say about this episodes, it's a two-parter. It shouldn't have been a two-parter.
No, because why are the pigs pigs? I always miss this.
The Daleks always come to Earth and they get like a force of humans. They make Robo-Men.
Feel the need to make them into monsters. Or...
Yeah, to make them obedient / to show off the incredible effects. Because again, they look fucking sick.
But he had the Laszlo one, isn't full pig. Like,
he escaped.
That's it. So.
But he needed to remain a little sexy.
And somehow no one noticed him sneaking backstage for a side view until Martha's hilarious hiding behind the girls moment.
Which, again, campy. But it shouldn't have been a two-parter because I can see the vision of it. It's a grand Dalek story you want to build up. You need a two-parter for this section. And I can see why, but it wasn't fleshed out enough. The Laszlo and Tallulah stuff really does ground it and is actually some of the best stuff in the episode of like Martha seeing a love story go right, I guess. Even though they're different, they can fall in love. So it echoes through what she's doing with the Doctor. It just helps it feel more real because like you're doing all this magic stuff. You'd put a love story at the center. It just makes sense. But it didn't need 2 whole episodes. So you can really feel like once they go to the sewers and they start walking around the sewers for ages, it's dragging, it's corridors, it's walking.
It certainly is a bit, well, when I'm watching this loosely and not for this, there certainly skips.
Yeah. If you supercut this episode, I would watch it. I would very easily watch it. But I think spending an hour and a half on just this, the first part is very much set up. It does the Tallulah stuff. We get a couple of reveals of the Dalek and their evil plan to basically, they want to build the Empire State Building and put some Dalekanium on top for an evil Frankenstein experiment downstairs to turn a bunch of humans they've been kidnapping into super Dalek humans. So like the best part of human, the best part of Dalek.
Because the whole connection of why humans persisting, they must have something worthwhile. And since the cult of Skaro have been granted to ponder, to think. It has allowed them to consider this where a traditional Dalek would just go, no, we're the best, kill them all.
Well, it actually plays off a classic Troughton story. They want the human factor, so the Daleks put Jamie, the companion of the time, through a bunch of adventure experiments, which is like him swinging off ropes. It's kind of stupid.
But the idea.
But yeah, the idea is they're going to scan his brain while he does all these experiments, and then they're going to try to give that to themselves. So it's kind of a play on that. And then Dalek Sec decides, actually, I can go one better. I want to become a Dalek-human hybrid. And it's not the greatest effects ever. The head looks great, but then because he's a guy in a tux, he's got the
same
gloves.
with the cats, they made them nuns so they could cover up most of their stuff. And all that.
It doesn't work fantastically, but you do get a fair bit of good dialogue between him and the Doctor.
Who's obviously curious.
It really brings the Doctor around from, okay, they're no longer humans, but they are Daleks, but wait, I can save the Daleks. Like, it conflicts him, I guess, because he has to try. I think that's his line. Martha says, are you sure they can become humans? And he's like, I don't know, but I have to try.
And he's here thinking, these are the last of the Daleks. Surely by now, these are the last, because I've wiped them all out across 2 years.
Instead of genociding them, if I can make them better, then I don't have to feel like ass all the time.
Which is what he, is what this Doctor is always kind of battling with. So it makes sense for that.
Yeah, so that all works well.
I think, as you said, the ideas are there. It's a fun idea, premise, but you can't help but think if they went, 20 minutes in, human Dalek, would be a fun.
It'd be punchier.
Because you do feel like you are hanging around a bit. I mean, the second half, when you compare it to the Are You My Mummy gas mask stuff, which continues through really strong, with the mystery still carries through.
There's no mystery in part 2.
Mystery, which people forget with Doctor Who is mystery-based a lot.
Yes, a lot of the time it is, you want to watch the Doctor figure something out and then explain it to you and you go, ah!
Exactly. But then, as we said, I think with this season, and maybe in season 4, but this season, even in the NAFA episodes, which I think we'll get to the next one, the Lazarus Experiment, they still, and I have to assume it's our showrunner Russell, is making sure there is a character through line. That because of this adventure, we have revealed something or we're making the character reflect on something.
There's someone for everyone.
Because when we get to the Lazarus Experiment, Mark Gatiss, and he also later on appears as the World War I general the Christmas special in Moffat. Him and Moffat are obviously close friends throughout Sherlock. Mark Gatiss as an actor obviously plays Mycroft. It's probably his most iconic role is Mycroft in Sherlock.
I wouldn't say iconic, to be honest.
His most well-known, recognisable role.
I would go so far as to say the most he's ever been seen was as the random banker in Game of Thrones.
But writer first, I don't know of his acting credentials.
He was in the Quatermass Experiment with David Tennant, and he was in the League of Gentlemen. The League of Gentlemen would be his biggest for people that are older than us.
He plays the same kind of, he's typecast himself, or it's just because he even looks like a posh aristocrat anyway.
Yes.
He plays posh, know-it-all prick people very well. And in this, he is playing an old man called Lazarus, of all people, and he is basically wanting to be reborn.
Basically, this is the writer doing Spider-Man.
Yeah, sure.
This is mad scientist does an experiment, goes wrong.
Becomes something. Yes, becomes a
Spider-Man
Scorpion.
comes in to stop him.
Yeah.
It's also Spider-Man 3, which, interestingly, this came out just beforehand, so they were at least in production at the same time. So he didn't steal the idea, but they both end in a church using the bell tower up the top to defeat the villain, because that's how Venom is defeated.
Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man pulls the plugs away in this. That's what the Doctor does.
Yeah,
to save
so it's
him.
like, it's very much
You're
that.
right, it's very Spider-Man villain. Martha's now landed back in. It's only been 12 hours, so people aren't quite...
Well, she did disappear that night, so her mum's like, what the fuck, man?
That's it, she did disappear that night, but still, it's not too worrisome.
Martha does get jump scared by the Doctor in regards to going home, because she's like, where are we going next? And he's like, oh, the best place.
No place like it.
And then, she's home, and she's like, oh, you can tell she really got caught up with it.
And that's it. It's like the sense of danger is what these companions love. And it's what they set up, that she can think on her feet and wants to do that, wants to help, wants to be a doctor.
Yeah.
They agree to leave. He gets in the TARDIS, but then goes, hang on, did he say reborn or whatever?
Lazarus pops up on the TV and does the stinger. And then it's the whoa.
Yeah, he puts on the tux. He's her sort of date +1.
It's a little James Bondy, like the set is the nicest building in Wales, kind of deal with glass everywhere.
Martha goes, this is the doctor. Tisha some comment of like, oh yeah, doctors, it makes sense.
But then Mum
is very suspicious of him because I guess he's probably 10 odd years older than her.
Yeah. Well, Martha, I think, is like 22, 25 kind of deal, like because she's a med student.
And David is in his early mid-30s.
And the mum is incredibly sus on men because she's a divorcee, so not happy. But the family dynamic is actually way better than I remembered it being. I don't think I remembered it working as well, but you've got Leon, the brother, who is very casual, very blasé. He's like, oh, my sister found someone nice. That's lovely.
The actor's the voice of Rasta Rat.
Thank you. Tish is like, yeah, you're dating someone successful. I wish I could, especially because she's the younger sister, so she's always a little jealous of the older sister, which kind of plays into her flirting a little bit with the rich scientist later on.
But then there's that weird bit where she just goes, I could be the witch of the waterfall.
Oh, Goo. Why would you do that?
I could be the witch of the waterfall.
Mum, incredibly suspicious of the doctor already, but then she gets
More suspicious.
a little hint from some random guy, seemingly.
Played by an actor called Bertie something. I forget his last name.
Why do you know him?
Well, he plays Jonathan Strange in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
So you were excited.
And he will be a Targaryen prince in Dunk and Egg.
Fair play. Well, for this, he's the tiniest role of, that's a bit weird.
It's so weird because he's only appeared for this episode. The seasons have got a lot better at seeding.
This one is the best.
Because the first one had them going, Bad Wolf. Second one
What's that?
was Torchwood denies access. In this one, there's a few more subtles, like I think we get a direct Mr. Saxon will. We see a few vote Saxons here and
Saxon
there.
is only ever audible or like in the background. It's never pointed out. Like the Saxon thing wasn't written on the side of the TARDIS in big words.
Because I think at one point, Saul just go, let's do this for Mr. Saxon.
Mr. Saxon gives us the order. We're allowed to fire at will. So it's so well seeded. So that guy says that's a bit weird.
Planting the seed because they want to corner the doctor.
Yeah, but he doesn't stand out as like, oh, a federal man or like anyone working for the government. He's just like some random guy that walked past almost. But the mum, Francine Jones, she's the cat nun from season 2. She is the very catty one.
They're really good at that, aren't they? They like doing
the
this.
prosthetics are incredible. But she's so fiery in both roles. So like she works so well as the mum that you don't want your girlfriend's mum to be like this. You'd be terrified. I think it would be a very budget episode if they didn't have to spend so much goddamn money on making Mark Gatiss into a CGI monstrosity.
Yeah.
It does not hold up. The face, I think, is the main problem. I think the body, you could probably get away with.
Yeah.
And be like, wow, that was ambitious. But it's no Tooth and Claw. Like, the Tooth and Claw werewolf looked great.
Because they use shade and stuff. This is fully lit.
You've got soft lighting. He's running around a lot more. There's a lot more motion.
The explosion stuff. Like, they really do rely on it a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's meant to be because he's powering through the energy his body requires to sustain itself. So at first he's eating the hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
But then it's like he finally has to consume people.
Yeah, which is a bit close to the plasma vor. But then basically you've got like him evolution hidden, yada yada.
Yeah.
It's evil scientist turns into a big monster.
And there is a grand reason the master reveals why this happened. Like,
he wanted the tech. So basically, I guess the master couldn't figure out the tech himself, but Lazarus could.
I didn't need that, to be honest. I
It's
whenever
a
I
link.
think back, I was like, oh yeah, the master is just as brilliant, if not as brilliant as the doctor. Like,
Yeah,
not more brilliant.
it's a link. Although I guess the doctor was also shocked at Lazarus being able to do this. So like, they don't know everything.
Yeah.
But once it's there, he can like fix it, I guess.
Yes. Once again, it's probably one of the more forgettable episodes of the series, and a very strong series at that. But
The best part is Mark Gatiss's makeup.
yes.
Why is this show so good at prosthetics? Like, he looks like an old man.
I mean, they have David in 2 separate old man prosthetics.
Which I wonder if they shot at the same time. Because in Human Nature, it's just a flash forward. So,
yeah, but he's not as old as he is in...
Oh, isn't he?
No, it's a different... I mean, you're seeing the edit.
That was
it's a
expensive
different
then.
stage. It's one of the more forgetful episodes of this season. It's one of those, oh yeah, this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't rewatch it unless I was doing a series watch.
Yes, exactly. The link to the character is... One, we're getting seeds for what will the finale be, but it's not quite clear yet, which I like. And we get kind of the whole living forever element. But imagine me living forever. Like, I can offer so many good things if I had 15 more lifetimes.
Yeah.
And the doctor goes, but that's just not how it is. Like, and says something poetic to explain why it's a bad thing.
There's a really good exchange there that is unfortunately, at the very end. There's a good one earlier on, but this one's the better one, where the doctor says it's inhuman to live forever or whatever, but then Lazarus says the most human thing is trying to avoid death. Like, we're literally hard-coded not to die.
And then the irony that a man who can rejuvenate his body and live for hundreds of years is saying this, but then he's saying it like it's a curse.
Yes, you don't actually want to live forever. He's a genius. Why can't he eat a couple of people and then do more genius things?
Yeah.
Because those people might do something incredible as well, and you won't know.
And you're denying that. It's just a philosophical quandary. It's like, if Einstein could live forever, but someone has to die every 6 months, would you do it? It's like, well, Einstein's brilliant and could help us, or whatever you want to say. But then, if those people were randomly killing off, what if they were the next Einstein?
It's gambling.
Exactly. But even for maybe one of the more forgetful episodes, it's still pretty all right, with a good through line.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, is that, unlike with the Shooty stuff, there never really felt like there was a through line with the character. I didn't feel like Shooty was discovering or learning or becoming something different.
Yeah.
With this, we're dealing with the Doctor's trauma, and really seeding what would come is the Time Lord Victorious stuff.
Yes.
But it's there.
And it does do well for Martha's family. Like, you needed more of them.
Because Martha now decides they are going to continue on their adventures together. And we are rocking into 42.
We are up to 42.
Which is written by...
Chris Chibnall.
Probably Chris's best go.
Easily his best story.
I like it because, one, I always blended in with the two-parter of Rose in season 2.
Yep. Satan Pit.
Because, we're on an industrial spaceship thing.
Yep.
We can't get to the TARDIS.
You see, in my brain, I love it because I love Sunshine.
That too. When did Sunshine come out?
The same year. So they were...
It's based on a book.
I don't think so.
Because it's really coincidental, isn't it? Very similar premise.
So just like the way that Lazarus Experiment heavily mirrored the ending of Spider-Man 3, despite being made at the same time, this heavily mirrors Sunshine that was made at the same time.
Yeah, the kind of underrated Danny Boyle film that people like. I don't think it was greatly reviewed at the time, but it's been appreciated a lot more.
It's no Event Horizon, but it's still pretty good.
Because the third act is a controversial thing with Sunshine, I think, where it becomes a monster movie a little bit. Yeah. But I still really like Sunshine. But yeah.
Everyone's sweaty and dirty.
Yeah, it's Chris Chibnall's two iconic things. The Doctor's at his best when he's dealing with 4 or 5 problems at once, and student Chibnall going, a lot of running down corridors, a lot of...
No, not corridors. One corridor. It's one long spaceship.
Which clearly is in a factory or something.
It's in a paper mill.
All very inspired by, like, I guess Alien would be it, like the truckers in space element. It's not all Star Trek and beam me up.
Yes, everyone on this crew doesn't super want to be there, seemingly.
They've all got their reasons.
They all don't like each other. The cast doesn't work nearly as well as Satan Pit does. I think everyone in that's fleshed out a lot better. That's also a two-parter, though.
And this is 42 minutes, which is the premise, that the Doctor has 42 minutes to save this ship and get out of there himself, because they're heading for a sun.
Yes, it's in real time the way 24 is in real time.
Yes, and it felt very much like it was 42 minutes, the whole situation, which I quite liked. Because it is just so, we're straight into it, we don't have time to get to know anyone. It really, I think that's the pull when I'm watching it. I'm going, wow, this is in real time.
Yeah, it does have the same premise as Satan Pit. Like, they walk out of the spaceship, then the TARDIS disappears, they walk out, and this one, that's TARDIS gets lit on fire. So basically, while he was writing this pretty good episode, he was writing Cyberwoman.
My God.
Inside us, there are 2 Chibnalls. I think Martha gets to shine for a little bit there. In another Rose-Martha comparison for me, when the Doctor gets possessed by the sun later in the episode, he has to freeze himself for a bit. And Martha's in charge of that. She knows to heal someone, they might be in pain. Like, if you're cold turkeying a drug addict as a med student and they're screaming, you have to do it. But, like, Rose wouldn't put the Doctor through that. Rose in no way, shape, or form would let the Doctor scream out in pain. She would be like, no. Whereas Martha is immediately like, we're doing this. The Doctor's screaming, I'm scared, which we've never seen before. I think he cries for this part of the episode. Like, we very rarely get this.
Because this is all 40 minutes, basically, in real time, when she's out in the pod that's getting sucked into the sun with that random guy. It is interesting, and, you know, it's a fun idea that you've just met this woman for 20 minutes and now you're about to die with them. So you would kind of get this kind of immediate romantic connection potentially, because you're going through things together in half an hour that couples won't go through ever in decades.
Yeah, it's the Speed dilemma.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
in Speed they get together at the end, but in Speed 2 she's like, it never would have worked. Martha gets a boyfriend for a bit there. You're forced to slow down in an episode that is like full throttle the whole time. she can't go anywhere.
And she gets her phone sorted because she rings up Elvis or the Beatles because they don't know Elvis or the Beatles.
So then she calls her mum and we get some more mum stuff because she's like, is it a pub quiz? And she's like, yeah, it's a pub quiz. She's like, you're not allowed to cheat.
Yeah.
So she's like scolding her but still helping.
And is she already being listened in? Is she being listened in at that point?
That's a big reveal. So
Yeah.
basically she's like on the phone, she's doing the Googling, but then they like turn around and it's the woman. So we don't know they work for Saxon at that point. Until at the very end, she's like, Mr. Saxon, thanks you. And we're like, who's Saxon? Like, what? Negatives for the episode for me, it doesn't super know what it wants to be. So we're half monster, half pub quiz. So the pub quiz is an interesting thing to make Martha do, and she has to go down and she has to do all those. The crew got drunk and they came up with a bunch of pub quiz questions because they needed security locks for each of the doors. Why they need that, no one knows, but it happens. That's something for Martha to do while the doctor deals with the monster. I think what you want in an episode like this is better kills. Like, I think the Satan Pit really does a better job of setting up these characters and then killing them.
It is better and freakier because this guy's just got a mask on and he's revealing his eyes. And I know there's the connection because he's the partner of her. And the reveal is that they
scooped the sun, but the sun was alive.
The sun was alive. And so, which is very much like what Sunshine did, that the idea that the suns are kind of, well, you know, it makes sense. I mean, it's a god in mythology, so you kind of build on that. It's fine.
The kills are too quick for me. So, like, I know it's a kid's show, but they all die the exact same way. It all happens within 15 minutes because we're moving so quickly.
And the sun's motivation, where the mystery or the horror of Satan's Pit, of this unknowable force, it's not there with this. But still, it's a fun thing. It's one of his stronger episodes, I'd say.
I feel like he's watching 24 at the time and he's like, hey, that's a fun idea.
Yeah, and like, it's a fun premise for the Doctor, and sometimes those premisey episodes, if he's only got 42 minutes to solve a problem, works.
Yeah, but then they solve the problem, give everything back, and then they head off to the next episode.
Now we get probably one of the strongest two-parters of this era.
Definitely.
I think the guy who wrote the book came to write this,
Yes.
didn't he? It was a Seventh Doctor story.
Yes, Paul Cornell during the hiatus. This came out in like 1995. He is credited as the writer, but apparently a lot of it was rewritten by Russell T Davies, is what I've heard. But maybe that is a lot just to bring it in line with the season, because like it was the Seventh Doctor and a young boy. So now it's Martha, now it's a Fogwatch.
It's something I wish they always did, because they've got all this extra stuff that they own from, I mean, the Big Finish stuff they own because they gave the rights to, so they can take what like they did with Dalek.
Yeah.
And so I'm always confused in the modern era where like Ben Aronovich is a great author, wrote some early Doctor Who books. Amazing they don't like bring these guys in to
and
do
you can
a story.
guarantee they're good. Like, you know they're good.
Yeah,
all you have
it's
to do
so
is make it
strange
fit.
that, like, when in doubt, just pull one off the shelf and adapt.
Yeah,
But-
because the premises are the hardest thing in Doctor Who. Coming up with that initial idea, because most stories could be covered by a different doctor, and what that different doctor would do will alter the story.
Yeah.
But like that initial hook, like that's the hard thing to get, which is why Moffat is so good at that.
Well,
but
yeah.
speaking of 42, that like has to kick off hard because you're in a rush, this episode starts insane. Like this is one of the most stingers we've ever got.
It was great because you're rushing in. It's a very, like, in the middle of an adventure. Did they see us? They couldn't have seen us. No, they didn't see my face. A quick, right, Martha, here's the thing. And we wake up to him like he's waking up from a weird dream.
That's the mystery we were talking about wanting in some other ones. It's like, what is going on?
And then it's just, it goes like, oh, hello, Mr. Smith. And then,
Yep.
and she comes in, and now she's like a maid of the house of the schoolmaster. It's 1913, a year before World War One, which is a theme and story of the whole point. And yes, the Doctor is being chased by some unknown force in order to hide them out because they can follow him through time and space, has camouflaged himself as a human using a chameleon arch, which lines up with the chameleon circuit idea.
Which is a clever hint for later.
I have to imagine a original idea was we go to a special room and get plugged in somewhere, and it wasn't just a weird little headphone the prop department threw together. But I let it go because we don't have time and we got to get going.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I reckon this actually works way better in this adaptation than the original book. Having Martha in this role works incredibly well. Like, she changes everything about it, and it becomes a Martha story.
Reflects the time, reflects how we've changed. Also like that. I mean, I went to an old school that would have been around at that time. That you can just go to these schools and they look exactly as they still do. You just change the outfits and here we go.
This was an open-air museum, I believe.
Ah.
So, like, everything already is pretty and looks the way. It's like frozen in time.
I did that on a school trip where we played the students and our history teacher played the master. We had chalkboards and we did it for half an hour. It was very fun.
So with Martha in this episode, she gets to pretty much carry everything. Like, David Tennant is incredible, and he gets to play a completely different character.
Doing a different English accent too, which is fun.
Posher.
Yeah.
And that's fun. But like, Martha gets the actual, like, I guess, heart of the episode until we grow with the Doctor a bit more. There's a couple of people that point out like plot holes, like, oh, why would the Doctor do this to Martha?
What do you mean, like?
Send her to 1913.
But isn't it just like where he ended up? Or did he just think quiet little England, nice place to hide for a few months?
I like to think he didn't have a choice.
He just ended up there.
Yeah, the TARDIS made an entire personality for the Doctor based around the time. So that's why when Baines says, permission to whip him, sir, and David's like, yeah, I guess so.
Of the time.
His whole personality is based around that. And it can't do that for Martha, but Martha fits in perfectly well, and she like looks after herself. She makes sure he's safe. It really helps because like Rose was never left alone. Rose never really had to fend for herself until, I guess, series 1 finale, where she had to like open the heart of the TARDIS. But apart from that, she was pretty much always very Doctor, whereas Martha is way more independent. And that's not a knock to Rose. We love Rose, but it is good that they're showing the different side to companions.
Yes.
And it wouldn't work with Rose because Rose would be immediately accepted as a lady of the house and it would have been fine. Like, my young wife. But no, you can't be married to a young black woman back in 1913, I guess.
Yeah, it would have been a bit of a stigma.
She cops a lot of racial abuse, but she knows what's going to happen. It's like, I think it's played really well.
And they go, oh, these boys will be running the country. And she goes, probably won't be.
Yeah.
Like, so she has that thing of like, they don't do it, but wouldn't you want to scream? Like, go, oh, shoot, transfer, which would be a fixed point. But wouldn't you want to do that? Like, you're trapped in this precipice of time.
And she, like, the Doctor isn't nice to her, but also he's a bit kind, but like, she's overstepping.
Because he even says, I dreamed about you.
Yeah. And they've only been there for 2 months. There's only 1 month left. So she only has to really get through this abuse for 3 months and then she's home.
Watch and
also she's doing this so that people don't die.
Exactly.
Because if the family of blood get a hold of the Doctor, they're going to reek across the universe forever with pain.
Because I criticised it last season with Love and Monsters, where I said it's the most basic. I want the Doctor for his power. These guys are the same, but as ever, you present an idea in a cool way, surround it with cool concepts. It doesn't matter what their reasoning is. The one thing is, it's been pointed out by a few people, and I guess the reason was he's filming in blocks or whatever, that his hair is just anachronistic. They don't flatten out his hair. He has spiky, gelled up hair in 1913. Like, it's anachronistic for the time.
Yeah, it would have been a good change, especially considering they gave him much more hair for the 50s episode with Rose, like they made him of the time.
He's not really a real person. His memories aren't really real. So he's always, like they say, he's always got the look of someone who's left the stove on or he's forgetting something.
And when you ask him where he learned to draw, he says Gallifrey. And she's like, is that an island? He's like,
goes,
yes.
Yeah, it must be.
Some fun things with that. He says his mother is Verity, his father is Sydney. They're the two people that created Doctor Who.
That's cute. But the family of blood do get a hold of them. Harry Lloyd, who is the great-great-great-grandson of Charles Dickens, fun fact, played a Targaryen, voice in the Duncan Egg audiobooks, and is playing George Martin in the Beatles biopic.
Oh, he seems like the nicest person in interviews. He has such a normal voice. He's just a happy English lad. And then in this, he's a sadistic motherfucker.
Yeah, he starts weird and gets weirder.
He's a pompous git, but then he becomes a mass-murdering psychopath.
Be a great Lord Voldemort.
I thought he was Tom Marlowe Riddle for years. And then I rewatched it, I'm like, oh, it's not him at all.
James McAvoy almost got that, but they wanted him to wait for months. He's like, I can't wait for months. So they've come because they want the Doctor, and they finally have sniffed him out because young what's-his-face...
Thomas Brodie Sangster.
Who's always 5 years younger than what he actually is. It actually would be a decent Doctor. He's playing the Artful Dodger in the Artful Dodger show. That's about as Doctor as the Doctor, like, it would be his Doctor. And so he has a kind of perception thing, which we see sometimes in Doctor Who.
Psychic people like Gwyneth, even Susan. Yes, Susan is a Time Lord.
Yes.
But she was also partly psychic. Like, we've done psychic people before.
Also, it's a way that he feels connected to the Watch. And he's someone similar to Mr. Smith, where he always seems like his head's off somewhere else. He's having visions and stuff.
He's getting things out of order. He knows things he shouldn't.
Like when he refers to the holiday, and all that. But the Doctor, Mr. Smith, I should say, is fancying Matron, the lady. And she even has the very, classic, oh, there's a dance on. Going with anyone? fancy going? And he falls down a set of stairs to avoid that conversation. Yeah, it's very fun.
It plays into the season arc of like Martha loving the Doctor because everyone's like, you're very close with Mr. Smith and you probably shouldn't be.
I liked it a lot, like the knocking and all that,
Yes.
and remind you of your station and all that.
It's so good. Yeah, when she rushes in, she's like, are you okay? She's like, you're meant to knock. So then she runs back out, knocks, because she's sassy. Like, Martha's got the fire.
Yeah, I love it.
The great scene for the season arc is she goes back to the TARDIS, and it's always the funny thing of when did the Doctor record all these things?
Yeah, when did he do this?
We're going to assume psychically while the transfer is happening. I don't know. No, she comes into the record.
He wouldn't have had any time.
Yeah.
You just have to go.
Confusing. But he came up with like 37 rules for her. None of them are you falling in love. You never thought about falling in love. But I'm right here. And that's why I think it works so good for this. Like, it's such a good adaptation.
Would have been interesting if it was Rose from that angle, just fear creeps, that she maybe wouldn't mind keeping him this way because they could age together and they could just be a couple.
Performances alone of the little girl, Harry Lloyd, the old maid, have become iconic despite them just being people, but because they're so sadistic and they love it. Like, we don't get many Doctor Who villains that are in it for the love of the game. Like, the Daleks think they're superior. The Cybermen, it's like a prerogative of, I'm going to make you better. Like, I'll fix it.
These ones just love being evil.
Yeah, they're just fucking insane.
There's the nice bit where David references future father-in-law with the cricket ball. Like, the Doctor instincts are coming through. It's quite nice.
Apparently that was a nightmare to film because they had one piano.
Yeah, I can imagine so. But still, the idea that this klutzy guy but also has these moments of brilliance.
Yeah. Another little cost-saving measure, apart from not going inside the pub, was the invisible spaceship.
Of course.
It was originally going to be a big hole in the ground with a hatch, and then they're like, oof,
just dong.
What if we don't?
Yeah, it's
What
fine.
if it's invisible? I mean, cloaking devices have existed forever.
Exactly.
Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if when Star Trek came up or whoever came up with the cloaking device was like, we cannot afford this.
It makes sense in world, cloaking device. They're about to kill the Doctor. They've got guns. They get out of it. And now it's a race for time.
It's a base under siege.
Yeah, and then we get what I quite like, and it's quite the more touching bit, is that we are acknowledging these boys who will die over the next 4 years as they have their own little world war.
Yeah.
And
they're literally
crying.
all in tears. That got me.
They were that age.
Yeah.
You had boys lying about their age to go to war.
And the way they didn't think it was going to be a big war.
Home by Christmas was the famous saying.
Yeah, the headmaster literally has the line, I hope one day there's a proper war for you to prove yourself, unlike this joke of a war we're about to have. Like, no one took it seriously, but these boys are fucking, like, in tears.
But yeah, they have that bit where they have to defend the school under siege. The boys are, like, tearing up. It's brilliant.
You can see the relief on all their faces when they're like, they're just straw. Like, they're just
so they
straw
don't
men.
have to feel
And
bad
they're
about
like,
killing them.
oh, God. But then also they start getting rounded up and everything like that.
And they want the watch so they can consume the Doctor.
Yeah. Realistically, Thomas Brodie Sangster stole the watch to extend the episode into a two-parter.
Yeah.
Because it's very simple if the watch is where you expect it is.
There's the moment where Martha goes, I'm sorry, Doctor, we're going to have to open up the watch. So,
hand me the watch. And he's like, oh.
Exactly.
You can see the Doctor getting actively angry at Martha because, I mean, imagine I just started gaslighting you into thinking you're someone else.
Yeah.
But then the matron is like, there was actually a fob watch there. You are kind of weird.
Because the Doctor talks her down going, no, Martha, like he thinks she's actually a simpleton. She goes, no, Martha, you see, that isn't real. That's just silly
That's
little
what we
dreams.
call fiction.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus.
But again, he's built from the time.
Yeah, built from the time. And then later on, where I like when she goes to Matron, she just breaks down all the parts of the book. You could have read that in a book because I learned.
Yeah. Where do you think
where
that's
did you
exactly
learn it
what I
from?
did. And that's, again, Martha being a badass.
Have you checked for concussion? She's like, yes.
You probably wouldn't say concussion to people that don't understand concussion back then.
Yeah, well, but this was the era of shell shock when they came back.
Not to dogpile Belinda, but she never proves that she's a nurse. Martha breaking down the hands, Martha taking charge like that.
Thinking
not
that
just
way.
going over and trying to treat a boo-boo, because Martha is a fully fleshed out character. She has everything there, whereas Belinda was nurse. Belinda was 35 nurse.
And I really like that we go and make John a character. Because there is a version of this where John isn't. He's just a fun 2D. What if the Doctor wasn't the Doctor for a bit? Because there's the bit where they've connected and they've both met. Like, he feels a bit lost. She's lost her partner. When he realises that, yeah, in order to save these kids, I have to do this. So he has that flash forward where they're like with their kids.
I don't know who gave him that, but that was cruel, or whether that was just his memory, but it seemed diegetic.
Yeah, because he goes, did you see that? So it's almost like he gets to, it's sort of getting your cake and eat it, but it's also tragic that he gets to live a life in his head.
Yeah.
We see old man David going, yes, everyone's safe, don't worry.
Yeah, it's a complete blessing and curse of, this is the life you could have lived.
Because then they say, let's just give them what they want and let them go.
Yeah. Just, David acting his fucking ass
So
off in that
good.
scene, crying everywhere.
Yeah, because he's petrified, and it's so good that they do it. The reason why you give him a girlfriend is to make it more tragic, because we've seen him be vulnerable with someone.
And it works also because it's not Martha. So it's like it works for both of them because the Doctor finally gets to fall in love with someone, but then it's not with Martha.
They even characterise Martha's old mate.
Which they do with all of them, yeah. And then they get murdered, I guess, realistically.
Well, they don't get saved. They get thrown into purgatory
Yeah,
forever.
because you see Harry Lloyd when he's captured. Like, he's no longer the bully. He's literally a terrified kid in the corner.
So he goes and does the old, classic misdirection. You shouldn't let me hit all those buttons. It is quite the...
It's so good.
Yeah, because I think at the time, I don't think I realised
They leave it on the fact that
he's got that choice to make.
he wants to just hand himself over.
Yeah.
And Jonah's like, you can't. And then it's like,
So
decision.
you're thinking it's going to be that moment where it opens up and you get the hero moment. But instead, true Doctor fashion, misdirection, I've pressed all the buttons, you were too busy, blown up. And then you get a really good bit for this Doctor is that, yeah, you've messed this about. You've ruined these people's lives. So I'm condemning you to the heart of a collapsing star. I'm trapping you in a mirror.
In every mirror.
Yeah, I'm putting chains on you that you can never move, and then I'm petrifying you and making you a scarecrow. And I have to imagine he put a perception filter on the scarecrow and no one ever thinks to go to it. Obviously, it doesn't matter. I always feel like the writer's like,
Basically, the Doctor aura farms for a good 5 minutes of just like...
it is why the Doctor could never lose.
insane. Yeah. But it is kind of a little wanky the way it's like he hid because he was kind. The Doctor doesn't do this to the Daleks.
That's my problem, is that he hides from them, but then he fucks them up really easily.
You're making the Doctor too powerful because otherwise he would do that shit to the Daleks. But it is cool still.
It's always the problem with the Doctor. He doesn't have superpowers.
Yes.
But in your imagined world, the Doctor beats Superman. He beats almost everyone.
We saw it. He did it. He did it in the episode. So, it's real. It happens.
Exactly.
But that is the whole thing. If you can side brush that, then it is incredibly cool. And you're like, holy shit, this Doctor's insane. Which, again, works for Time Lord Victorious. And it does make me wonder, whether Time Lord Victorious was planned from the start.
If they were just seeding and building to
Yeah,
it.
or whether he's just really good at this dark side.
Because then he goes to Joan and she gives him a very harsh, she goes, is it still you? Are you in there?
My favorite thing ever. Can you change back? Yes. Will you? No.
When he's about to regenerate season 4, he goes to Joan's descendant. Clearly, his emotions and feelings did carry over, I think.
He does say that everything that John was is in me. So, he's like, I do have the capacity, but I'm still...
And he offers her to come with him, which I'm sure Martha would have loved.
Yeah, this guy sucks. The Doctor kind of
it
sucks.
would have been interesting, because I know they would have done it in Classic Who, of having a 1913 matron with a 2007 Doctor.
Yep.
Would have been an interesting thing, but also she says no, because she goes, you could have landed anywhere, but you landed here.
Yep. Would there be death and destruction if you didn't choose here?
Exactly. So you're going to go everywhere and do this, and it's that thing you have to ignore. But then if you're acknowledging it, it's interesting. That is that the Doctor's always out here to save people, but how many problems have occurred because the Doctor was there?
Yeah, and as a companion, how much do you love the fun over the death and murder and stuff like that?
Exactly.
For Joan, it was too much death and murder.
Too much death and murder and too much fantastical. So it ends on a fairly tragic note.
Once again, with the season theme, he brushes off the pain.
Yeah.
Like the way he did with Gallifrey, where he's like, oh, that's gone now. Or whether he's like, Rose is like, oh, she's gone now. He's like, oh, that was a crazy adventure. Anyway, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's never forced to slow down or kind of deal with what he's done. Because like Joan said, this is all your fault. And instead of dealing with that, he's like, I'm gonna head. That's just super interesting.
Yeah, really one of David's strongest stories.
For sure.
I think a lot of people go to the next story, Blink. But I think if we were being, if we had the criteria of the best Doctor Who story of the season.
With the Doctor in it.
I think it would be these, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be. It's more classic, true to Doctor Who. It's a good classic Doctor Who story that you could see Tom Baker doing.
The Doctor isn't in this technically either.
No.
Until the very end. But it is more Doctor Who than the other one. That's what I mean by banger after banger after banger.
Then we get to what is still by a lot of people reckoned as the greatest Doctor Who, if not of this era, at least top 5, top 10.
I think it's a 9.8 on IMDb. I think it is the highest rated Doctor Who story of all time.
Because down to the fact that it is something that you can just put on. You don't need the Doctor Who lore. Very true to what Moffat would say later on. With Doctor Who, whenever you write a script, you go, well, there goes that Hollywood blockbuster idea.
Yeah.
And with this, I definitely believe it. I think Moffat's gift to Doctor Who, he stole from himself, because I think The Weeping Angels would have been a terrific horror film in its own right.
And the Doctor isn't even in it, and it's so good that Russell T Davies is referencing it in season 2, 20 years later.
So the way it works is that with the production blocks, they just end up always having a moment where they just simply can't, because he's busy doing the finale.
Usually, yeah.
With the time scale, they just have to have a Doctor light somewhere.
They don't have to. I think it is a budget thing, though. They can put that elsewhere. Series 1 didn't have it. Series 2 had Love and Monsters. Series 3 has this. Next time we get a companion light and a Doctor light in Series 4.
This was the first time I actually was scared of a Doctor Who.
Oh.
I remember going to bed that night and, maybe just checking over my shoulder.
Part of it's that outro where they're like, oh, everything worked out really well.
That got
but then
me.
they're like, what if all these statues are real? So you're like, you sons of bitches.
As terms of because you just said cheap budget episode, brilliant. Absolutely brilliantly used. I mean, Moffat's kind of the master on it. We see with Time Crash as well. He really is that guy. He's at his best when you give him a limitation.
Well, he wrote this off a short story he had written elsewhere, but it didn't contain the angels. It was basically the Doctor communicating like the intro, how it's like she's peeling back walls and it's stuff. So it was something he already thought of, but then he's like, what if statues would kill you kindly?
Why does she go there initially?
I assume just investigative, interest.
Yeah, because we don't know what her thing is, right? What her job is.
No idea.
Sally Sparrow, played by the now great Carey Mulligan. Very young here, thinking her very early 20s. An almost companion. A name like Sally Sparrow, she's a Moffat woman. He likes his fairy tale style.
She's Moffat through and through. She'll stare at a naked man, not hurt his feelings about it. And she's just so casual about it. And then she's like, wait for it, you'll realize.
And the ironic line of, sad music is all that stuff.
I like being sad.
It's happy for deep people.
Yeah, very Moffat-esque. And
but I love it.
The flirtatious woman thing that he likes, which is, look, I would rather someone have a style than not have a style.
Yeah.
And this man has a style, and when it works, it fucking sings.
I refute that Moffat can't write women. I think he's just very good at writing his favourite women, which have now become my favourite women.
I think Sally Sparrow is probably one of his best.
For sure. She also doesn't have to
be obsessed with a man.
Yeah. Well, everyone's obsessed with her, I guess.
Yeah, because this story, she's in her own little, as we learn, closed time loop. But as if you haven't heard of Blink, watching it again, I was watching it with the reverence of it's the episode Blink.
So you were trying to be harsh?
A little bit, and all I could come up with was the little bit of sad, deep people line.
You're like, oh, classic Moffat.
Yeah, classic Moffat.
While I was sitting there,
excellent.
I'm like, yes, thank you, Moffat.
Yeah.
Give me your poetry.
The setup is obviously that old Sally Sparrow has found graffiti on a wall, but it's under paper, which tells her the duck. She then gets something thrown at her, which I think was the angels, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, because why would the angels throw a brick at her?
Yeah.
But also, we don't really know what the angels are, because that's the stinger of the episode. So it's kind of... That is the one plot hole, I guess, is coincidences, but also it's a bootstrap paradox. So it has to happen to happen.
Moffat too. He likes that.
He loves it too much.
I figured out my one thing that I don't like, but we'll get to it. It's solely from the perspective of Sally Sparrow, who's just your normal person. It feels incredibly grounded, this story, where sometimes, when they do the reference of, all them Daleks, or when you hear the Titanic, or when we get to the next Christmas special, everyone's just left London because something always happens at Christmas. This, to me, felt like none of that had happened. It felt like really the most grounded this season has been, which is purposeful. She goes to her mate's house, who she must have known for a bit, Kathy, but she hasn't known her long enough to meet her brother.
Although you lot don't travel, so maybe he lived town over.
20 minutes away. She walks in, sees the Doctor on the screen.
That moment felt very coupling to me with the whole, she comes over and she's like, I'm not coming to meet you, it's 1 a.m. And she's like, no, I'm just downstairs. And it's makes them both seem like friends immediately.
I haven't seen coupling, but I had that thought. I was like, this feels like that show he did beforehand.
I'd recommend coupling, Jack Davenport. She's so likable. Sally Sparrow is a wonderful person.
I would have liked I don't know if they've ever done any kind of Big Finish as jerry-rigged a way to have Sally Sparrow on some adventures, but I would have loved to have seen that character. And I would agree that Moffat can write good, interesting women pretty much all the time, even if maybe uses some similar things, but it's not about that.
Yeah, well, she's kind of a proto-Amy in a lot of ways.
You could feel him playing with that idea. With last season, he obviously had the Fireplace Man, which is very Amy, young, and idolises and loves the Doctor. Something he definitely was in the back of his head that he finally got all out with Amy.
Which, in fairness, he didn't know that he was going to be the showrunner. So he's, like you said, he's burning his best ideas. And then they're like, can you now write 3 seasons worth? And he's like, fuck, okay. I like this. I like this.
Yeah. What I forgot is just how quick this episode, the show, it's still 45 minutes. In my head, I feel like it's a 90-minute epic, but it's 45 minutes. They go there, the doorbell rings, she answers the doorbell. It's somehow her friend's grandson.
Yeah, which she doesn't believe at all. Because insane.
Because she just saw him, but then she's seeing photos as her friend has now disappeared, and turns out these angels, while they are really quite scary, they kill you with kindness. And they just, they feed on your potential energy, which is such a Moffat Doctor Who thing. They gobble it all up and they just throw you into the past for you to live out your life.
Yep.
And they seem to throw you in the relative past, like at least within 100 years of your timeline. So she ends up in 1920 in Hull, claims she's 18, marries a guy, has a whole life.
Again, such a good little moment for Sally being like,
told him you were 18, you lying cow.
But then she has to go tell the brother that,
she's gone away for a bit. Yeah. And then that's when she gets the first little hint.
You start to get the proper bootstrappiness of it all. And it's not out of hand in the way of like, we ragged on Joy to the World a fair bit because of the heavy use of the bootstrap. There's also the Capaldi episode where they start the episode by explaining bootstrap paradoxes because he's like, this is going to be an especially weird bootstrap. I'm going to make sure you're on board. Yeah. But here it's used very gently, I think. It's probably the best use of bootstrap he's ever done.
Like predestination, like that closed timeline, closed loop idea.
Every time she has a conversation with DVD him, it works perfectly, but also the main one works the best. So it's like, you get that little, like, that's weird. And there's DVD extras or so, 2007.
That's what I was about to say, like the Easter eggs. I remember Spider-Man 2, all the little Easter eggs you could find. Like the one I remember is on scene selection, you had a Doc Ock's tentacles, and one of them was clickable. And if you click on it, you'd get the behind the scenes of Willem Dafoe on the glider going, here we are. But yeah, it's a concept that if you're watching today, the idea of DVD Easter eggs it's a dead concept.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe it's evolved into something else.
I guess Easter eggs in games still exist.
Yeah, true.
It might be in the zeitgeist enough that people get it.
Yeah, but at the time it was pretty big, and you would get. I'm sure there's some famous Easter eggs out there.
Oh, I hope the DVD extras on this. That would be good. I should look that up.
I think maybe in my mind's eye there is the full recording of the David just reading. I think there is. It would make sense if there was, so I've made it so. Because
that's the crux of the episode, is that she keeps seeing this DVD extra everywhere, and it seems like he's having a half conversation.
Yeah.
And the brother is into that whole thing.
Yeah, he's on the Reddit, if you will. He's trying to figure it out. He's us.
And Moffat pokes fun at the internet again because he's like, yeah, me and the guys think it's this. And she's like, by the guys, do you mean the internet? And he's like, yeah. Like you said, it feels much punchier and quicker because like she does that and then the friend is like, go to the police, you idiot. Why does no one ever go to the police?
Where exactly. He says that.
It makes sense that you would sound batshit insane. So you're like, okay, I won't go to the police. But then someone's saying it. You're like, all right, I should go.
But he makes that make sense because by going to police, you continue the plot. So that's where she meets...
Billy Shipton,
because she says Sally Shipton at one point.
Which is so fucking cute.
Yeah, very, and they do such a good job. And the angels are following her.
Because she has the key.
The key which takes them to the TARDIS.
I don't know why the angels didn't already know where the police box was. I guess they were doing something else when the cops carted it away. They got back and they were like...
Well, I guess if a bird looked at them, they're buggered. Like it's a fact of their biology. They don't even have to know they're being looked at. If someone's looking at them, they immediately change.
Which I guess when you go down to the insect level, you're like, is that real? But I guess most bugs don't look.
Or perceive.
They don't see the way we do.
Is that what seeing is? That they have to perceive and understand they're looking at a statue?
Maybe. But again...
Don't think too much about it.
That's the thing. If you can get past the coincidences and the thinking too hard about the angels, they work so perfectly.
So then we meet Billy. He takes down going, it's just no box. We can't get in. There's a bit of flirting. She's quick to get out of there because she accidentally says Sally Shipton.
Gorgeous girl. When she's walking out of that room saying, don't look at me, because she just said Sally Shipton, I'm like, that's incredible.
It's some of the best stuff. And it feels, I mean, he's a good writer and you really feel the quality shift with this stuff when he's being human with it.
And they still manage to break your heart in like 2 seconds where it's the same rain. Like, that's why I love Moffat's writing. Hearing the words, it's the same rain, I'm like, fuck, man, you're so good.
We get probably my big ding.
Oh, yes, tell me.
We see the Doctor from Billy's perspective. I honestly would have rather if we never saw that and we only saw the Doctor at the very end coming out the taxi. Because what we learn there, what do we actually learn from that scene? I don't know if we really need it. And then, yeah, it turns out he's the one who's been doing the DVD extras. Because then it gives him the mystery that I think is taken away when you see him a little bit.
That's fair. I don't think it does that for me so much, but I completely get, like, if you're going to do a Doctor Light, do it, like, do what you've been doing and make it hardcore.
Yeah, and then the DVDs, because we were told before there's 17 random DVDs. Like, I've spoke to the manufacturers, I've spoke to them because they are random. But then that list then plays in because she realises they're the 17 DVDs I own. And he goes, you only own 17 DVDs, which at the time would have been ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, you had to have a cabinet.
But nowadays, there's no one in their early 20s who owns a DVD.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's one of those really insane things.
Yeah.
They meet at the house because she knows that that's where it's all happening. And we have probably the iconic scene of the transcribing.
Which, again, works flawlessly because it would seem completely random.
Because she's heard a bit of it before. She goes, I remember this bit because you said you can hear me. He goes, well, I can hear you. So it works twice, which is I say, it's very Moffat.
Because it's clever.
It's because it's clever, it's Moffat. And when he's clever and when he's limited in his cleverness and not doing what he did with Dracula when he got too clever.
I love Dracula episode 1.
Episode 1's wonderful. It's very Moffat, like Van Helsing's a woman. Like, it's all there. Because when you think about it, you don't see much of the angels doing their angel stuff. But when you do, it is great. And it's that bit where he's just staring and the horror in that actor's face.
It's the cut to them being angry.
He looks back, looks forward, the great bit, the strings.
Because again, there's no real proof with him. Like, you're like, oh, you wouldn't look away. But he's terrified. He doesn't really even know what's happening. She's trying to escape. And he's like, they're faster than you could ever imagine. How fast could they really be? I'm going to look away for like this long.
Well, they're blinkingly quick. If you blink and lose eyesight.
Blink, you're dead. That exactly is why this works better in this one episode than it ever will again. Because some people can blink one eye at a time. Like, wink one eye at a time. So you could be unstoppable.
Yeah, you just do that. Here's how you beat them. You just do that.
That's why he added the image of an angel becomes an angel.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you could point a camera at them and they can't move when they're on camera because the camera's perceiving them.
Yes.
So now if you do that, you've just got two angels, baby. You fucked up.
I suppose that's a good point. And then the iconic, like, because they cover their eyes because they can't have the other angels looking at them.
Yes. That incredible plot point.
It becomes, they want the TARDIS because then they can feast on all that potential energy of the TARDIS. And they get into the TARDIS, they put in the DVD, which is, you know, it's the one-time thing.
Which is that hologram of, when did you make this hologram?
The TARDIS disappears, but he time locks the weeping angels because they're all looking at each other.
So good.
Brilliant. And so that kind of ends it all. But then, you know, time goes by and she's correlated the folder.
Because she's always thinking about, like, if I don't fix this, then I never exist kind of deal. Like, it's on her mind. So when she finally sees the Doctor run past, conveniently the same time she's making this little portfolio, but hey. And then she gives that over to him and then she's like, you know what? I can date now. Not that she didn't have chemistry with Shaggy, but it didn't feel like super deserved. But again, it's the high octane situation with a person. I guess he lost his sister, she lost a best friend, so they would like...
It's a very tight, wonderful story that it's almost wild it's in there. That, like, I feel if someone was watching this and not knowing about it, it would just be this wild episode out of nowhere.
It works standalone.
You know, the way that, you know, the anthology stuff got popular with Black Mirror again, it does feel like this Twilight Zone, Black Mirror-esque. Obviously, Black Mirror's about tech. But yeah, it just sits wonderfully by itself. And yeah, other than my little dink that we see the Doctor outside of the DVD, I think it's wonderful. And I mean, it seems like such the obvious one to go, it's the best modern Who. But it's certainly up there in terms of an episode under the Doctor Who banner that has the Doctor in it. Yes. It certainly qualifies as, of the modern era, it's top 5.
Yeah.
It's unquestionably.
And you can tell it's what 73 Yards wanted to be. So incredibly badly.
I think a lot of people have, is it Heaven Sent, Capaldi's epic of going through?
Oh, as their top?
It's up there for a lot of people, that one.
Which is another Moffat, and it's also another Time Loop episode.
Yeah.
So I think people might like Time Loop Doctor Who Moffat episodes.
Well, it makes sense because as Moffat would continue on later, it's amazing that a time traveller lives such a linear life.
Yeah.
So with stuff with his bootstrap ideas and River Song, he's playing on that idea, which I love.
And it's the most fun thing you can do with Doctor Who. Like, sure, otherwise it's just monsters. Like, otherwise it's man goes to a different place and there's monsters.
Yeah.
Star Trek can do that. Star Trek can go down to a planet and there's monsters. Speaking of bangers, the next one.
The banging of the drums.
Here come the drums.
all this time, I was thinking, wow, I wonder what Jack was up to in between there. I wonder what led to that moment. Turns out there is nothing added to my experience of Jack. I was conscious now, I've seen season 1 of Torchwood, how my perspective of Jack would change.
Especially with that finale, how it seems like he gets picked up in Torchwood HQ.
Yeah, he's still the Jack of season 1, in my opinion. Like, he still feels like Jack, flirting with everyone, all that. It doesn't feel like Torchwood Jack, who feels a little bit more serious, a little bit more dour.
Literally 200 years older kind of deal. Or
yeah, like the way the world... And now he's just back to being all, hey, Doctor, I'm flirting with everyone.
Season 2 does a lot more with that, like Torchwood Season 2.
We're trying to merge the Jacks together.
Because they've gotten their groove in. Only took them 13 episodes and $50. But it would kind of be weird watching Torchwood. You'd see that ending, and then 6 months later... You'd have to watch through 13 episodes of Doctor Who
to get there.
10 to finally get there.
But I watched it without a knowledge of Torchwood, so it was pretty weird to be like, Captain Jack's just running.
Which was probably also intentional though, because like he can't guarantee you'd watch Torchwood. I guess when he's writing this, he doesn't know if Torchwood's getting off the ground.
But yeah, really loved the opening. I remember seeing a fan thing on YouTube. They did the Doctor Who intro, but they put Jack on the outside.
Constantly.
So when it's travelling through time. I thought, God, I bet they wish they did that or wanted to do it. I would happily George Lucas special edition just that. But yeah, Captain Jack jumps on the outside of the TARDIS, but because the TARDIS and the Doctor are space-time racist,
yep, pretty much.
They go to the very edge of the universe just to try to shake him off.
The TARDIS hates him.
But he rides the vortex of time.
Which I guess is fair, he can't die.
And he goes, oh, that's very him, which I like.
It brings back the immediate stuff of what Nine and Jack had, where it's like adversarial.
But mates, really.
Yeah, it's like, it's always a bit of a pissing contest.
Whenever Jack's there, I just think him and both Doctors work wonderfully together.
I think he could be easily overused, though.
That's what I'm saying. I do think there is that hesitation, but I definitely think in season 1 he was underused. I wish he was introduced. I wish we just had longer with him after he was introduced.
He's used the same way here to mix up the dynamic. Not that Martha and the Doctor were anywhere near as stale as what we thought Rose and the Doctor were by the end.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, they're just best friends, they're in love, they're everything we find boring.
Yeah.
This was still exciting and spicy, but you're about to go into a 3-part finale, so you want to do something, especially, it makes it feel more epic in every way, basically.
Exactly. Well, we cut to, don't even worry about them, cannibal teeth people.
Yeah, Mad Max with fangs. They're called Future Kind. They don't let the episode down because they're not really a big deal. They're literally just like a threat.
All of episode 1, which I loved when I was watching it, it's all just kind of a smoke screen to what we're actually here.
Yes.
Which is what I love about this episode. You're getting all this stuff about, Chando. Is she also used somewhere else? I feel like she was an actress.
The actress?
Yeah.
Yes, she is the season 4 turn left whimsical person that gets Donna to have a chat to her.
We get into the last arc of the human race. It was occupied by her people. She's the last of her people. And there's these future kind, and the end of the world is, I guess, 2 a.m. in some quarry in Wales.
Literally.
We'll just go with it. It's fine. It works just fine.
It looks decrepit. It looks dusty. That's fine. But also, AK-47s lasted until the end of the universe.
Shh, we'll just go
Come on
with
with
it.
laser guns, guys.
So we get there, and we've got Derek Jacobi, Sir Derek Jacobi, the great English actor.
He's so fucking good.
Honestly, I wish we got him as the Master a bit longer.
Well,
and
I hope
know
you
he
like
did
Big Finish audio.
He did some Big Finish audio, because he's now canonically, that is what the Master
He's the
looked
War
like
Master.
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Especially he works with John Hurt, now that John Hurt is the War Master.
Yeah.
It's like 2 icons, but you've got Chanto who's mirroring Martha. Like they both have a companion and they're both beautiful people.
I mean, even as an insect, I'm down. And even Jack's like, maybe a little blue, and the repeat of, Chan, I don't mind though.
Yep. Because Russell can write Jack better than Chibnall can write Jack. They have that mirroring there of each of them have a companion. Derek Jacobi is like a beautiful grandpa.
So good.
Every failing I had of the Doctor calling Shakespeare brilliant and being like, wow, you're so genius, you're so clever. Derek Jacobi actually earns that.
Yes.
Because like he's built all this stuff. We can see it. And the Doctor's like subtly impressed. Like he's just like, oh, you're an old scientist. That's really cool, man. Like good for you. And then he's like, you made this out of food.
And I always remember the, doctor everything. Oh, a scientist.
Yeah.
And like he goes and grabs him. He's very excited.
And he looks at Jack looking at the Doctor and he's like,
Yeah, which one?
Come on.
Yeah, which one
like,
is
I
it?
need it.
And he's wonderful. Such a treat that they got him in.
Apparently he loves Doctor Who and wanted to.
Really, the plot is quite simple, but what it is just some really cool character stuff.
It's the banter. And talking about Rose again, so it brings Martha's arc kind of in view because Martha gets worried that she'll get left behind because like Jack got left behind.
I just think they get because they didn't know what else to do with Martha, so she might as well be in love with the Doctor.
I mean, I think it works. It just gets hammered home too often. Like it's every episode it has to get brought up.
They get to the base, start helping. It buries it away with Dr. Yana. You're not really paying attention to it.
Well, you're busy doing Jack and the Doctor and their little man-to-man talk. I love that men can't have a proper conversation unless they're in a radiation chamber with a rocket about to explode.
They're both men now where I feel like he could probably relate to Jack on another level because now he's a man who can't die, who's lived the long way around.
They're both hundreds of years old at this. Oh, wait, I guess Jack's probably like only 100 to a little bit, but the Doctor asks Jack if he wants to die. Jack's like, I used to, but now I don't know because like he's now doing Torchwood. He has a reason to live, I guess. But the whole point of the episode, like you said, it's a smokescreen. What we think we're doing is we're getting the last of humanity to Utopia on this rickety spaceship, even though the Doctor could probably just put them all in a...
Well, when he gets the TARDIS. I was thinking, just go get the TARDIS.
Yeah. But they don't. And once you get past that, it's worth it. Like, honestly, that little stipulation of maybe the TARDIS should have been broken or they couldn't use it because then they needed to use it later.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Professor is being somewhat emotional because he's hearing all these words that mean something. Regeneration, Time Lords, TARDIS, here's the drums, which is invented for this. The Master had never referred to drums in the past.
Correct.
And I loved it because as a young boy who didn't know his Doctor Who history, I didn't know the Master was a thing.
Yeah.
So when that watch turns over and Martha's aghast, I was aghast too.
Especially because he pulls it out a few times just to like fiddle with, and if you don't notice, you don't notice.
And I've known at that point, I knew Doctor Who to be the Doctor to be the last of his kind. That's a fundamental pillar to this character. So to have that moment, massive, huge.
I have no idea if it was spoiled by the internet back then, but I hope not.
Oh, I forgot. My favourite bit is you say you want a man who can't die, and then he wakes up. I've got just the man. Hard cut to them sprinting down the hall. Loved it. When Martha goes down, he's like, look, he's got the same watch. Impossible, he can't. The Doctor's still on this plot point, but then it's like we're with him going,
he's slowly getting pulled away.
And then he yells like, what did he say?
Maybe Chris Chibnall was right when he meant that the Doctor's dealing with multiple problems at once.
I loved it. Like that he slowly, then he runs back.
It's intense.
And you hear the great Shakespearean actor talking through it, goes, open me up, you old fool, and receive my majesty. Oh, that's awesome. It's so cool.
But then you get the Chantho death. Because she's like, I love you, but I have to stop you because you're destroying our work. And then it's heartbreaking.
Because at first I thought the Master was maybe even playing into it. Maybe he can keep her on side briefly.
Right.
Like, don't worry about it.
I think he just forgot about her.
Yeah, he didn't care.
Unimportant.
But then we get his brief time as the Master, Derek, and he's wonderful. Like, I am the Master. Electrocutes her.
The effects on that electrical cable.
Yeah.
So bad.
And then he obviously gets shot. Falls in, and then what I love is that he has his dramatic, if the Doctor can be young and strong, then so can I. The Master Reborn, the music swells.
Gives a reason for it.
And then he regenerates, it's white, and it seems, and it very much makes sense that the Master in some ways is the better Time Lord, because when he regenerates, he seems to be much more aware of himself. He aims, at least, he aims to be young. The Doctor seems to struggle when aiming. So he becomes young, and that's kind of the end. He becomes a wacky inverse to David's wacky.
Yes, you get John Sim, who was currently doing Life on Mars at the time.
The great bit where, the Doctor's there just begging him, please, they're all gone. We don't need to be enemies anymore. It's just me and you. The desperation in it. Wonderful job by David.
At that point in time, we still don't know like who the Master is or like what the overarching mystery was until you hear Martha go, I know that voice. Because she's listened to Saxon the whole time. So then you're like, oh. And then this next episode, when you cut into it, it's this country's sick. I think it needs a doctor. Martha's like, oh, God, we missed election day.
And then it's got the very classic, like, I guess, like 1984 authoritarian of vote Saxon. Like very. But also makes sense that since he didn't have to bother because he knew they were going to vote for him, so he had the most cheap-looking vote for thing ever, and feeds into the fact that there are no policies.
Yeah, and it didn't have his face on them kind of deal. So
and I did love that For someone even as brilliant as the Master to insert himself within 18 months into the world, he couldn't do it with all the tech in the world. Like, people would have no memory of him. So I love when the journalist says, thing is, it's not even that well hidden. Like, it's amazing that...
Yeah, it's a couple of Photoshops and some done-up records.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
The Master was always... They even referenced in the episode, the Master used to hypnotize people all the time. So when he wanted a crony, he'd be like, me, 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 and then they'd do his bidding. So it carries over there. So again, he hasn't changed the Master fundamentally.
They go to modern day, and in 18 months, he's now managed to ingratiate himself as Prime Minister. Harold Saxon, very cool name.
He's batshit insane.
Which I don't know if I like it. I think at the time I thought I liked it.
I'm very 50-50 on it because he's very comical. I
think I prefer Missy, to be honest, overall.
Yes, I think Missy does a good... I even prefer him when he returns with Missy. He's toned down, but he's still very mustache-twirling evil villainy.
Yeah.
But I think it does have to be this because, he's insane in fairness, but also he's trying to inverse the Doctor. So, every time the Doctor's hyped up, so it's you have to make this evil hype up.
So, the Master is Prime Minister, the Doctor's on the complete back foot. It's obviously now, as a fan of Doctor Who, it would have been wild to, that line, the Master's the Prime Minister of Great Britain.
The stakes are incredibly high, and then they maintain that by kidnapping Martha's family. So then you're like, okay, now we have a personal element.
We have the Dutch tilt in her apartment to make it feel bigger. And then we have the wonderful red dynamite just on the back of the TV. Yeah. And the way even the Doctor turns it
it says 1-0, and then he still gets out in time.
It might as well have said
Acme.
dynamite.
Should have said Acme.
Yeah, that's it.
I get it because it's comical because the Master would have done it as a joke. He's like, make it look more like dynamite. But it is a bit much. I don't know. I can kind of go either way. And then you've got things like the Hey There Baby Baby, Voodoo Child coming on.
Scissor Sisters in the next one.
Is there
I can't decide.
It's yeah. But again, he's goofy and you're allowed to play with it. And I guess you are massacring the human race. So as a children's TV show, you kind of want to bring some levity to it.
Yes.
And the funny evil man doing a dance. I guess he kind of copied that with the Celestial Toymaker as well.
It's a wonderful twist that this actually was the finale the whole time. Because I don't think I knew going in as a kid that the Dr. Yana End of the World was actually the linking into the actual finale.
Right.
Which was a twist in itself. Because I thought this was just going to be a one and done, and Jack's here too. Which is what it feels like up until the last 5-10 minutes. And it dawns on you, I guess more smart viewers would have went, they wouldn't have got Derek Jacobi in for nothing. He must be here for a reason. So yeah, we get things moving in, they get caught, it's all falling down. They come up with a plan using the...
we get proper explanation of the perception filter, yes.
And we get the lore drop about Time Lord stuff, which was pretty big for me. You look into the time vortex.
To be inspired or run.
So then what about you? Couldn't stop running.
Ran away, of course. The perception filter explanation is wonderful to me. It just makes you not notice something. It doesn't turn you invisible. And then the way the camera angle moves off to the side and blurs him out a bit. So your eye naturally follows the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you're not watching. I'm like, that's so well done. The Master gets control of the Valiant. We get a bit of America is a silly country kind of deal.
And I start losing interest as we keep going.
Yeah.
This is the worst finale of the original run.
What?
I think I will prefer season 4's finale.
But worst finale?
Of this 4 run, of this... Well, what I think the Parting of the Ways is better. I think the Cyberman War is better.
But we're including Utopia, and Utopia is really good with Derek Jacobi.
No, actually, no. I don't think a decent smokescreen episode with Derek Jacobi doing a good Master performance will save it from, I think, the seeds of... I actually think Russell of 2024 got a time machine and went back to this time, wrapped up good Russell and wrote... Well, I mean, you can literally watch this and I'm like, I can see the seeds of the Shooty finale.
You can see that in all of his finales, though.
Yeah, but in this one, it's right there. He writes himself into a nonsense situation that he can't get out of. And then we're meant to believe, and I'm going straight into it, meant to believe that Martha has spent the year travelling the world.
I believe that Martha can travel the world. I believe that she's self-sufficient. I believe... all of that. Honestly, even the psychic network, them linking in and them all wishing upon a star. My main problem with it is 100% Doctor becomes Jesus. He didn't need to be sci-fi shrunk down into...
Gollum or Dobby.
The original Master had a shrinking ray that he shrunk people. and put him in matchboxes.
What did you think of the
so
effect?
this is a slight reference. It's better than it should be.
No, but the effect of him changing it, they just had David fling his arms erratically.
Oh, that effect. No, that was hilariously funny. That ruined what should be a serious moment because it's like a fast forward filter. Ridiculous. The effect that is better than it should have been is when he becomes like little golem.
Because now, obviously, it's a meme of when he's wheeling him out and he's like 100.
Yeah.
It's like the BBC in 2050 wheeling out David Tennant.
He lived in a dog tent. Like, it's incredibly degrading.
Yes.
Like, everything going on is fucked up.
Because the Master wants to glow, because obviously...
He finally won.
Because the Master also, I think it's implied, you're the only Time Lord left. So the Master doesn't want to be alone. And he kind of needs the Doctor, I think.
It's a little Joker Batman kind of deal.
Yeah, particularly with when the Doctor wins, he immediately gives up like a naughty boy is finally going to get his smacking.
Yeah.
And I did like that element. Like, it's not fair. Like, it's childish.
Well, that's what brings it back for me, because I don't love the Space Jesus.
I don't love any of the build-up to this.
Any of it. I think a lot of it works. I think we maybe spend too much time just like, yes, Martha is doing this traveling, but again, it's kind of the hope thing that we were doing earlier in the season.
I know I probably hate it more now because all I can see is the seeds of Disney Who
That's
finale, because it is really similar.
Yeah.
It's being in an impossible situation, and then we flip the time back and everything's fine again.
I also don't like the flipping the time back. I think if he kept it as like, oh, I wiped out 1/10 of the population, that's cool. Like, you're not going to ruin your like thing.
So
but
just
again,
the end of the president. Like, they let the American president die.
But I think what saves it is that ending with John Sim and David Tennant when he's like, come on, just regenerate.
Yeah, that's good.
What is used by Moffat later on is the Doctor says, he's my responsibility, I'll put him in the TARDIS, and I'll keep him safe. And then Capaldi does it.
I did like that we do get that eventually.
Yeah, because again, that's the only humane way. He's not going to kill the last of his species. He's not going to kill who realistically is his best friend. Like, the Doctor does talk about them being best friends.
It's all I've got left. We're entering into the wrap-up, aren't we? So we get the face of Bo, Captain Jack, like, I've got my own purpose. See you later.
Maybe. I'm glad he left it open, but I know a lot of people hate it, but I'm personally okay with him being Jack.
Too. It doesn't really
because
matter.
if anything, it makes the most sense because you have this millennia-old
Because
creature.
he knows the Doctor.
Yeah.
He burns the Master like Darth Vader style. A red-nailed hand picks up his ring.
Yep.
I swear that was probably meant to be his wife. It's a random woman who's in charge of the wife at her special asylum. And they worship Harold Saxon because they remember Harold Saxon.
What I hate about that is that, again, referencing the new series, is
did the same
he
trick
does
again
it again with
for
the
no
Master's
reason.
gold tooth. Just because he has no ideas. It's just so weird that the old Russell T Davies came up with a great idea and the new Russell T Davies was like, God, I was a genius back then, I'll just do that. We wrap up the season arc of Martha. It feels like we're not going to wrap it up because she's like, okay, I'm going to go hang out with my family now.
I'll see you again.
And then she leaves. But then she comes back in and I'm like, oh, I forgot about this bit, thank God. Because then we actually get her being like, it's like my mate Susie had a boyfriend and he didn't notice her, yada, yada. But she basically explains all her feelings. And I think Martha leaving on her own agency
It's better.
is so good. Because like Rose was taken away from him, whereas Martha has been shown to be the more grown-up one.
Yes.
Like, she isn't a 19-year-old girl in love with the Doctor. She realizes. And also, the Doctor shouldn't be rewarded for doing what he did to Martha. Because, like, he wasn't completely oblivious to the effect he had on Martha. He does reference it a few times. It was completely necessary, and I think it works so well, and it rounds her out and also leaves it open for her to come back, which she does both in Torchwood Season 2, spoilers, and Season 4 for the finale and for like a two-parter halfway through.
And then obviously the Doctor, once again, loud on the TARDIS. What's going to happen? It becomes a bit of a tradition for this era, I'd say, of something has to happen at the very end, and it continues through. And then what is more ridiculous? I mean, I knew even at the time when it came through, I went, there's only one boat in history that exists. Like, it's the Titanic.
If you're writing a story.
And then sure enough, it's the Titanic. You have another iconic what?
Yep. Was he the iceberg? Yeah, like, holy shit, that's not good.
But no, and then obviously, which we will get to, there is, in our hearts, the canon time crash.
Time crash. So let's rank each episode. So remember, it's S, A, B, C, D, F. So what do you think of The Runaway Bride?
Christmas special.
Does that mean you're going to go easier on it or harder on it?
What works is then explored and made even better later. So what works here is just grown on later. If you rate it as a Christmas special, it's not my favourite Christmas special.
That belongs to Moffat and Michael Gambon, but continue.
For sure.
Cool. Glad we're...
No, it's The Lion, the Witch, and the Doctor. What are you talking about? No. So B, I guess.
Really? I was going to go A. What holds
I'm
it back
not
from an A
mad.
for you? Is it the reusing of the
I think it's all
Christmas
the
stuff?
auxiliary stuff, I guess. Well, I guess that's it. Why are you watching it? You're watching it for the Doctor having comedic time with Donna. And there is a good character bit at the end. Yeah, I'll give it an A. You've convinced me.
That was easy. Smith and Jones.
That's also an A, right?
Yeah, it's really strong.
It's a great character introduction for her. You immediately get into her. I think the only thing it makes disappointing is the promising stuff here isn't continued, really.
That's
She just
fair.
becomes a lovesick puppy too much.
There is a little bit too much of that. It's like, I do wish there was more of a midpoint for her arc through the
Right.
season. Instead, it's this really impressive start, her arc flatlines, and then the big end where she finally realizes. I do wish there was, yes, more of a turning point.
Yes.
And I guess maybe, I don't think Russell wrote any of the middle episodes. Maybe that's the problem.
Maybe.
I would put it on par with Rose. Like, Rose is an incredible
Yes.
opener. This is also an incredible opener.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Although I guess Rose may be stronger because Rose also introduced the Doctor, whereas this only does that. But I don't think I should let that hold it back
No,
from
it
an A.
doesn't. No, and also you could watch it through Martha's eyes and be perfectly introduced to everything.
That's true. I never really think about it as
Yeah.
that, but I guess I'll allow it. The Shakespeare Code.
I think that is a B, surely.
I was thinking even C. So I don't know. I don't.
Because then Gridlock would be a B, maybe.
Gridlock would definitely be a B for me
Okay.
because I love Gridlock, and honestly, I should probably give Gridlock an A because I love it so much. But I think it is missing some stuff.
And Shakespeare, I guess, falls off midway to the end, right? Like the opening stuff I quite like.
Yeah.
Walking through London, meeting Shakespeare.
But that's all the episode is.
Yeah.
There's also too much glazing of Shakespeare for me, which is just writers'
I
days and
agree.
writers.
Yeah, I agree.
Gridlock, I
B.
think I will give a B, but my heart, it's an A. Like,
I think it's a really good, just Doctor Who-y episode.
yes, maybe I'll put it at the front of the B's.
Yeah,
because
front
like,
of the Bs.
I think it just needs a little bit more carry through, but maybe it is because it's its placement in the season.
Yeah.
It couldn't go deep enough into the stuff I wanted to go deeper into. But as a third episode with Martha Jones, I think it separates her, gives her good stuff to do. I'm really happy with it.
I think all these episodes, it's like, if it's a B, it's the best B so far. If it's a C, it's the best C
It's
so
a
far.
solid season. He's getting into his
Yeah.
groove, old Russell.
Yeah.
Young Russell. Daleks in Manhattan, Evolution of the Daleks. You didn't like this one while we were talking about it.
I think they are C-ish for me. I skip them if I can.
Yes, it's definitely not a D. That's my thing.
No,
Like,
it's not a D.
if it was a one-parter, it would probably be a B. But because it's a two-parter, I think it drags too much, and I'm given 90 minutes of my
The
time to this
novelty
thing.
of seeing Andrew Garfield can only go so far.
I agree, C.
And already when you go and you're like, oh, Daleks again.
Every season. It also was 5 episodes ago because they're in the finale.
So,
And
yeah.
yes, that's necessary because it is Dalek Sec that does the,
Still
so it's the
though.
same one. But yes, Dalek fatigue is real. Demigorgon fatigue is not. The Lazarus Experiment.
It's fun to go back to Martha's time now when she's with people. The Lazarus thing isn't that interesting. Like, the ending's good. I think once again this is it's not a D. 'Cause
No.
we gave Fear Her an F, right?
We gave Fear Her an F. Fear Her was garbage.
This isn't a D. It's a C.
We gave New Earth and The Idiot's Lantern a C. So I feel like this is The Idiot's Lantern of this season. Interestingly, Mark Gatiss wrote The Idiot's Lantern. He's in this one. They're both C.
Yep.
Like, I enjoy Mark Gatiss, but he doesn't bring a Derek Jacobi presence.
No.
42.
I think this one gets forgotten, eh? Like, it's certainly the one because what's coming up.
And I think it gets lumped in with the Lazarus Experiment, which isn't great.
I definitely think it's stronger. There's some good stuff.
I'm looking at a B for it.
Yeah, I will give it the B minus. It just gets in.
Because bare minimum, it fucking goes.
It goes.
Like,
It's a fun idea.
Yeah.
The Doctor's got 4 minutes, and we're going to keep to the 40 minutes.
yep, the companion gets booted off for a bit. You get panic. The Doctor almost dies. He cries. Like, it feels like it's a very high, tense, emotional episode. Then Family of Blood, Human Nature.
What more could it do?
Exactly.
It has to be an S.
It feels like it's perfect, honestly. Like, I don't look at that and think, oh, that's a downer.
It's one of the episodes you'd put on going, here's what Doctor Who is.
That's very true. Because even though, it barely stars the Doctor, you've got him in the intro.
captures
You've got
it
that
so
craziness.
well,
and then
yeah.
it caps it at the end with like, oh, this Doctor Who guy's cool as
And
fuck.
keeping true to the historical, so then you're learning the feelings of that World War time without doing it. And you do get the World War I moment when he saves himself.
Yeah.
And you get the poppy at the end, which we didn't talk about.
We didn't talk about that.
So I think, it's a beautiful, pin
Yes.
on it. So, literally.
The bad guy fits the premise.
Because you as the audience are thinking about actual bodies getting blown apart.
Yeah.
in less than 12 months.
Yep.
Oh, S tier.
Blink.
Also S.
Oh, no.
How could it not be an S?
We don't even need to talk about Blink again, because goddamn.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Utopia, Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. I'm counting them all as one. We're going story. You can say, like, if it was just Utopia level, it would be an S. But because Sound of Drums exists and...
I think because I know where this is going, I can't... Can I convince you on a D?
A D?
Yeah.
No way. I would never go give it a D.
I think it starts off pretty good. The Dave Jacoby stuff, all that. The good talks with David and that. It's B area in that first episode. And then I think it goes B, C, D.
Insane.
So I guess we could average it to a C.
You see, I would fight for A for the first one, B for the second one, C for the third one, and that it levels out to a B for me.
No, because that one, it doesn't have the extra element, because the smokescreen nature of it could maybe make you say it's an A because of the trick of it.
But also the performances there the whole time are great. You get the banter between Jack and the Doc again. That all works really well for me. So that's
Jacoby,
an A.
yeah.
And then the second episode, I think that high tense of like, oh, my family's been kidnapped, the Master's taking over. It's the Doctor at his lowest. He's literally on the back foot the whole time. You don't see a way that the Doctor can get out of this. And that, to me, at the very least, is a B. And then Space Jesus and the whole episode being Martha just walking around.
That's a D.
That turns it... I don't want... Can I give it a low B?
Overall, you want to give this a low B?
Yeah.
I'd give you a C.
You think it's that bad?
I think the reason why I'd give it a D is because...
But what if New Russell didn't already do what he did?
I think because... These three, if you want to lump them in together like that, since I know where it's going, and I know it's just going to go to If You're Happy and You Know It, reverse the time.
But yes, they reverse the time, but then you get Just Regenerate, Please Come On, we're the only ones left. Do I have to put it in both and let you decide? I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to run a poll on the channel for B or C. Actually, no. I'll let them choose between S, A, B, C, D, and then we'll see what people choose.
I will allow you a B, but if I had a personal list, I'd average it out to a C overall.
A low C or a high C?
It'd be a low C for me if I was in charge. That's because my average is B, C, D, where yours is A, B, C. Yeah, I think it's the weakest of this initial Russell run, because I think the next one has that fun Avengers, the two Doctors, everyone's back together. I think that carries it through because he's earned the nostalgia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but then I'm forgetting the actual finale with the Master with electric powers and and burgers.
Again, I don't remember that being bad because again, you've got the gut punch of Wilf at the end,
and then the Time Lords come back. Yeah, I think I will put it down, and hopefully I don't regret it. I think this is the worst finale of Russell's initial run.